Good to go. So, beginning with motion 1. Whereas an agenda was made, and whereas we need to approve it, be it resolved that council approved the agenda of the council meeting of Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020, as seen on the engineering website. Moved by Thomas. I've been speaker for a year and a half, right. Seconded by Alex, an eternity in speaker time, Kosh Fitsialos. So I'll just give a little opening for the motion. Approving the motion or the agenda and the minutes of the previous meeting are something we do every council, so they can appear on the website. It's just a procedural thing that we do. If you have any amendments to the motion at any point or any amendments to the minutes, say if last meeting is notice, hey, I didn't say that, I said this. This is the time to bring it up and we can amend them if need be. With that being said, we'll begin debate on motion 1. So if anyone has any discussion, write your name in the table under motion 1 on the speaker's queue. All right, seeing none, I do not have a closing for this motion. Be it resolved that council approved the agenda of the council meeting of Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020, as seen on the Engineering Society website. Moved by Thomas Wright, seconded by Alex Kosh Fitsialos, all four. This is where you vote on Socrative. Oh yeah, I guess I don't have to say all four or all opposed or anything. I just let you guys do that. Okay. It's saying 16 out of 17 have answered. That might just be someone who joined twice, but all right, motion passes. Thank you for bearing with me for that. I'm sorry, it just logged me out of the voting software. All right, moving on. On to motion 2. Whereas it's been some amount of time since the last council, and whereas the minutes need to be approved, be it resolved that council approved the minutes of the council meeting of Friday, September 18th, 2020, as seen on the Engineering Society website. Moved by Thomas, last Friday night, right, seconded by Alir. We ratified some clubs, Gasija. I don't have an opening for this one. Is there any debate on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I do not have a closing. Be it resolved that council approved the minutes of the council meeting of Friday, September 18th, 2020, as seen on the Engineering Society website. Moved by Thomas Wright, seconded by Alir Gasija. Motion passes. All right, moving on to break. This is usually where we get pizza, but I'll give everyone 2 minutes if they'd like, just to, oh my goodness, Brian. Oh.
Thomas, as a point of order, what do we do if we want to abstain from a vote?
Those first two motions are procedural, so you can't abstain from them, but I've added a abstain option for all of the substantive motions.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
As a point of information, can I say that Zoom has the built-in polling functions? I'm not sure if there was a particular reason why Socrative made more sense for council, but I'm just sort of putting that out there.
Yeah, no, I learned about that very recently, and I didn't really have time to figure it out, but we'll be using that come the next council. All right. So we'll get back into business here. Moving on to speaker's business. So this is where I make any particular announcements or notes about the upcoming council at all. First of all, I'll use it to acknowledge that I'm currently on Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe territory, and I'm grateful to be able to live and learn and play on these lands. Since we're all calling in from different places, I encourage you all to learn a little more about whose land you are on. I'll use the rest of speaker's business to just welcome everybody to council and thank everybody for being here. And again, thank everybody for bearing with me because this is all very new and we couldn't really test it out until right now. Okay, so we will move on to presentations next, and that will be the exec accountability presentation given by the executive. Would you three like to share your own screen, or would you like me to share the slides for you? Or
I can share my screen, Thomas.
Sounds good.
There we go. Oh,
Yay.
are you seeing the right thing, or are you seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full screen it.
Am I?
Can you?
It is full screen. Oh, can you see, like, is this like the wrong?
It's fine.
It works. You're showing the presenter's view of it.
Ah, okay. Wait, give me a second. I'll try this. Okay. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Am I ready to begin anytime I want, Tom?
Wait, one second. I'm gonna close my window. It's like a lot of noise.
Oh, whoops.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, hi everyone. My name is Spencer. I use he/him pronouns, and I'm the president for the 2020-2021 academic year.
I'm Alex. I'm the Vice President of Student Affairs for the 2020-21 year.
I'm Ben Zarizzi. I'm the Vice President of Operations for the 2020-2021 year.
So we're just gonna give you guys like a presentation overview of what we did this summer. In the council documents that went out, there should also be a written report that's more in depth. So if you have any questions at the end of this, you can feel free to ask, but also feel free to look through that. So yeah, without further ado, I'll get started if I can. There you go. So yeah, the first thing that pops up is that our summer was quite different than any previous exec summer because right before we came in to the role, kind of COVID-19 restrictions were put in place. And so a lot of our summer was spent kind of adjusting to those and also planning for the fall semester online. Then the second main or big thing that came up in the summer that we hadn't planned on was the Black Lives Matter movement. And so that involved a lot of taking a look at our infrastructure and our events and analyzing them with respect to EDI and coming up with EDI initiatives. And then another thing was ongoing meetings, which are recurring meetings like statics or working groups that happened throughout the summer. And then the last thing was administrative tasks, which actually posed a bit more effort than we thought, just because we had to do it a lot of it remotely. So yeah, we'll go into an overview of month by month of kind of what we were up to. But we'll start with what we had as ongoing meetings. So some of those are pretty self-explanatory. The Eng Connect thing for me is the app that just came out for the from the faculty, and I was on the kind of development working group team, just offering a student perspective, and the rest of those should be more self-explanatory.
For the student affairs portfolio, so I mainly did work with the faculty in the remote teaching working group. So just planning for the academic year and all engagement with students, like planning for that. And then the other big thing I did was working with a bunch of different directors on the gender and engineering panel. So we're just planning for the launch in the fall and planning for hiring and things like that during the summer.
Yeah, so for the Vice President of Operations portfolio, a lot of it was meeting with all of the services consistently, trying to figure out different methods of operation for COVID. And same goes with finance. So meetings with the bookkeeper, our auditing people, the bank and investments and that sort of stuff.
Sorry, I'm trying to get to the next slide. There we go.
Okay, so for May, basically this was a huge transition period for us, and we were really adjusting to all like the COVID circumstances that popped up. So that included like learning about campus closures and what that means for us, and then all the limitations that come with that. So online NSOC, basically just like learning how that would go. Shout out to our director of academics for this remote teaching survey, because that was so well done. Basically, we collected information to prepare the faculty for a remote year. So that was really successful, and we got a lot of students participating in the survey. We also came out with our exec intro video. And so that introduced us as the exec, and then it also had some little like COVID morale boosting elements to it. So that was really great. And then other things we did was just planning for strat plans and budgets for our ED team in July. That's when they were due. And then our first point of contact with our rector, this is his first term as well. So we wanted to kind of establish like a good front and meet with him before the school year began. You're muted, Spencer.
Sorry about that. So moving on into June, that's kind of like when the app started being developed. So I started attending that. We also held like Bursary Committee meetings just to help structure it, and that was chaired by our Director of Social Issues. We also met with all of our like directors to help plan out kind of what their summer and also what their like a fall online would look like. So we sent out like a strategic plan template just to make sure that all of our like directors and all of our services were like planning correctly for the online year. And then so this is kind of also around when like the Black Lives Matter movement started up, and so this is kind of when we started to I guess react and put out messages, and really this is where we kind of began to start brainstorming what different initiatives we had, which then came out in a later announcement. Shutdown STEM, for some of you that don't know, was a day in the summer where all kind of like research and academic processes stopped so that people could take the day to kind of educate themselves on systemic like racism and the barriers that certain minority groups face. And then that was accompanied kind of by a town hall with the faculty, where we really started to discuss possibilities of different initiatives. And one of these things was kind of like a National Society of Black Engineers chapter, which actually just recently got ratified. So that is now an official club under NSOC. Yeah, so that's kind of how our June went.
Okay, July was a really busy month, so we had a lot of things happening. So we had SOAR, which was really nice. It was an online format, so different from other years, but we had our OC there. So Ali was there, Jonah, our Angelings head manager, Rain, our Dofi, and then us as the exec. We presented to the incoming first years. So that was really great. In terms of OEC, we started looking into ways for us to push hosting rights for 2022. So that was a big thing that we did with U of T. We had a lot of discussions with them. Also ESCO, a lot of discussions with ESCO on this. We're still kind of in the works with it. We have a presentation scheduled for tomorrow for this. So Hopefully it goes well, but we really want to be able to host since we're not hosting for 21 anymore. We've released our NSOC EDI action plan during this time. So thanks so much to anyone who collaborated who's here like right now. Thank you so much for that. Obviously the work isn't done because of course this takes work throughout the year and actually putting together all the tasks that we set out to do. But we're also going to come out with an accountability report by the end of the year to kind of have transparency over what we did and what we didn't do. Hopefully that can be taken on by like the next exec, which is awesome. And then in general, this is very EDI focused month. Did a lot of discussions with students and faculty and the ED team, and it was really great in that department. We really looked at NSOC and saw what we could do to improve. In terms of O Week, this was when we were talking a lot with them about online plans and seeing what we could do to develop those and logistically looking at it and determining a platform that we wanted to use. And then strat plans from directors, good stuff. We also looked a lot at space access, which is not something we usually do. But this is, okay, shout out to Ben for the proposal for the tea room because that was so well done. But basically that's something we had to do this year is apply for a space access proposal to use the tea room, and it's great because on Monday we're launching, so that's great. But that was something that was a little unconventional. We had a shutdown STEM follow-up discussion, so this was organized by the dean. So Spencer and Julia, our director of social issues, sat on this. And it was good that the faculty is taking into account all these EDI actions that are going on right now and are trying to improve and hear from students. So that was really, really great. And then, initial services, budgets, and plans are due by this point too. So that was underway and planning for the year.
And then moving on into like our last month, so the tea room proposal was kind of just like a written thing, and then we had to actually like present it to different like groups, different like working groups in the university administration. So we basically had to like convince them why opening the tea room was like a good idea sort of thing. So that took a bit of time, and then they also now, as Alex said, they've accepted our proposal. So yeah, we are opening up. We recently got in, oh no, we didn't recently. In August, we got like a delivery of Eng notebooks, which is kind of like replacing like the Eng agenda. So yeah, O-Week registration also opened online, and then primers were like packaged and shipped out to the students that like registered and like provided their address. This is also when one of our directors brought up the issue of international student tuition levels. So I was like in the process of bringing that up to the AMS and like the student trustee, just to see what we could do to advocate for that. For those of you that like don't quite know a lot of background on this, domestic tuition levels are like capped by the government, so they have like a mandated like level that they can increase by like every year, and they have like a set like limit that they have to be at. But for international students, there's not really any control for that, so like universities can kind of set whatever they want, and so sometimes this ends up in a very overinflated like international student tuition level, with not that many supports being offered to these international students. So the Eng Connect app then launched. We had training for the exec and ED team that was organized by Alex. And then we finalized our services, budgets, and strat plans. And then also we're like now moving into our presentation, and we've like kind of made our presentation and prepared it for ESCO. Yeah, and I think next Ben's going to talk about our summer actuals.
Yeah, so the summer budget was sent along with the agenda, so hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at that. But this is just a summary. So we had some unexpected purchases, being a Zoom license purchase for our director team and for other NSOC groups, postage for mail, and Spencer got a webcam. That was one thing. And then we had planned purchases that weren't made. So society stickers, we didn't think there was a need for that. This year, Crest paint, we had some already. First aid training, usually the executive gets that, but since we're going to be remote and it's also not being offered this year, we didn't do that. And also name tags for the ED team when they're on their office hours. We're not going to have office hours, so don't need that either. So overall, $9,000 was allocated for the budget. Total expenses, oh, actually there was one thing. So one thing was missing from the budget we sent out. That was the Adobe Creative Cloud purchase. So that actually was done. It was originally budgeted for, the amount that was budgeted was 1 month worth of Adobe Creative Cloud, which was actually, and we needed 4 months. So that was actually roughly $1,500 total for the summer. So overall, we spent about roughly $1,000 less than we predicted we would for the summer. And we had a net surplus of, that should be about $5,000.
So yeah, I think that, yeah, that wraps up. So that wraps up our presentation. Oh, it just glitched out my computer. Oh, sorry. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask or feel free to check out that written document.
Okay. Our first question will come from Senator Matthews.
Peter Matthews, Senior Senator. First of all, I want to start off by saying thank you to the executive team because this is definitely an unprecedented, unusual summer, and you guys had to deal with a lot of unexpected things coming your way. So thank you. Big thank you for dealing with all that. I'm sure it was very stressful at times and things were changing. So, and I think we all really appreciate your dedication to the society. I did have one quick comment, which was that over the summer, there wasn't a huge amount of communication between the executive and council. I think that, first of all, it's pretty understandable why you weren't able to do like the little videos that previous executives had done over the summer because of COVID-19 and also just being extra busy. But I was just sort of wondering why there weren't like little quick emails or something sent out to council, especially considering the executive still had council powers over the summer.
Yeah, I can definitely answer that. So the first thing was like, yeah, obviously we couldn't send out as many videos because we were only allowed to like use the lounge for like absolutely mandatory or necessary like actions, like if we needed to get something off of like the computers or something from the lounge. On the point of like the like written up things, I know Alex actually, we didn't send things out to council, but she did have like a summer series thing sent out to the general student body. I know they aren't as in-depth as previous years, but we did think that like responding to kind of like the issues that like arose during the summer was like very, like some of them were very important. And we don't think we could have like, you know, responded to them as well if we had like tried to find a place and time to like record a video or like write up a super in-depth one. So we're sorry for that, but I do really hope you look at our written report for the summer because it is pretty in-depth.
Yeah, just to add on to, it kind of exactly what Spencer said, but it ended up having to be like a prioritization type of deal where we had to prioritize what was going on at the moment versus kind of the usual tasks that we had to do, like sending out reports, which I think going back, I definitely would have been more like aware of doing that. So that's my bad. But we ended up having to like prioritize everything that was going on, like Spencer said.
All right, President Hoskin.
David Hoskin, Apple Math President. So it's just looking under like the August slide, and one of the things I noticed was about with OEC. So I was wondering if you could talk a bit about like OEC and what's kind of going on with that.
Yeah. So I went in depth in the report, but basically with OEC, our team, because it's going to be remote now, it can't be on, in person. We've been talking with our team and unfortunately, they are volunteers, and from what we've gauged, they aren't willing really to go forward with it. And we support them, obviously. We've talked to Dean DeLuzzi about it, and he understands, but we're hoping that we can be able to host for 2022 in person. Half of our team is still like willing to go forward with it, and they've put in so much work. It's just like the circumstances though right now is like we can't juggle everything at once, and basically you're gonna have to go and plan like a whole new OEC. Like it has to be totally remote. There's a lot of things that are changing, and that's kind of where we came to the conclusion of, hey, like it's not going to be possible, it's not going to be feasible for this year. So but right now we're looking into pushing it for 2022 so that we still have the opportunity to host, because it's a great opportunity for Queens. But yeah, that's the situation right now.
President Hosking, you still have the floor.
Thanks. Yeah, so just, so then does that kind of mean like with the Canadian engineering competition is that not happening either? Because like from my knowledge of like OEC, that's how Ontario schools and teams would qualify for CEC. So,
So OEC is still happening. ESCO will be taking over. We as NSOC, we couldn't do that. Like it wasn't in our capacity for this year, but they're taking it over, so it's still going to happen. And the Canadian engineering competition, we've been in contact with them, and they had contingency plans if, for example, OEC didn't go forward, but it is, so it's all good. They're still going, so you can qualify for the Canadian engineering competition still.
And also just to add on to that, one of the reasons why like ESCO is kind of able to have like an OEC run more easily than us was just because I believe the Canadian engineering competition has like a certain online platform and like setup that they're using, and I believe ESCO is like planning to like model it after that, and they've been like allowed to kind of copy it, if that makes sense, just on a smaller scale. But for us, like we'd have to like find a whole platform and like, if that makes sense.
All right, we've reached the end of the queue. Are there any other questions? All right, no more questions. Thank you all from the exec. Moving on to new business. So we'll get back into it with motion 3. Whereas Thomas is old and it's time for him to retire, and whereas we need to find his replacement, be it resolved that council elect blank as the speaker, chief electoral officer of the Engineering Society for the 2020-21 academic year. Moved by Ben, washed up, Zurichny, seconded by Thomas, washed down, right. So I'll offer an opening for this one. Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I didn't do that last time. So we are into our first election motion. So how this is going to work for all you new folk or anyone who needs a reminder is that we'll begin with the opening I will give, detailing the details of the position. We'll then offer up the floor for any questions regarding the details of the position, if there's anything I missed or anything that needs to be clarified. Then we'll move into nominations. Once the nominees are up, we will field up to 3 questions, the first of them being from myself, the mover. And then we will do a vote, which is going to happen in the speaker's queue document. So a little bit about this position. You will do what I'm doing right now. You'll run meetings of the Engineering Society Council, which will be a great weight off my shoulders. With the chief electoral officer aspect, you will be a member of the elections team. So you're basically like kind of a referee for the elections. Like you'll be very much into the rules. You'll be monitoring campaigns. You'll be speaking with candidates about what they can and can't do during their campaigns, and just doing some other general help with the elections team for planning and running the election. You can't be a voting member and run. You can't be a member at all, really. Like a director couldn't run for speaker. And of course, we can only elect one. So that being said, I will open up the floor to any questions about the role. Seeing none, if anyone would like to nominate themselves or nominate someone else, put yourself in the speaker's queue. for motion 3? All right, General Member Chasm, that is weird to say.
Yes, I would like to run.
What's your name and position?
Oh, yes. Zaid Qasim, general member.
All right, we have Zaid Chasm up for nomination. General Member Bougea.
I would like to nominate Andrew Vasla.
I respectfully decline. Also,
Andrew
I'm a voting
Vassila
member.
can't do it.
Oh, you're a voting member. Shoot, sorry.
I would like to nominate Emily Bujeja.
I respectfully decline.
Dang.
Okay. Use the speaker's cue if you're going to nominate someone, please. All right, we've reached the end of the queue. Are there any other nominations? All right, seeing none, Zaid Chasm is our nominee for Speaker and Chief Electoral Officer. So we'll get into questions, beginning with one from myself. Speaker, oh, by the way, you have 30 seconds to answer, and I'll shoot you a little message when you're down to like 10. Speaker is a role that requires you to be friendly but firm with the members of council when it comes to the rules. What would your approach be to enforcing the rules of council?
Awesome. I'll just get right into it. So as some of you may know, I was VPSA last year. So I'm very familiar with council, very familiar with the rules, very familiar with running a couple of councils near the end of the year after Ben got elected. So big thing with my approach is being friendly and understanding the rules, understanding policy and bylaw, and making sure that council stays on track. I think that council is the most important decision-making body. It is the most important decision-making body of NSOC, and making sure that conversations are on track is vital. So of course, maintaining decorum while being friendly and nice.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? You can just add yourself in the queue if you have any questions for Representative or General Member Chasm. Seeing none, I'll ask another. Do we have one? No. Okay. So with regards to the role of Chief Electoral Officer, how do you think the Engineering Society could improve its ways of soliciting nominations for executive positions?
That's a very good question. So I would say the biggest way to solicit nominations is to make the benefits of being an executive very clear. I feel like most students don't know what it's like being, can't understand what it's like being executive until they've been in the role. So doing a better job of advertising what those benefits are, because there's a lot of benefits that the general student body doesn't know about. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that are very unique to the role that people in those roles get that people aren't aware, and that if people were aware of, in my opinion, would be much more inclined to run for the positions. And I think that the way that we advertise. Oh, is that it? Okay, yeah. Cool.
Any last questions from council? Seeing none, why not ask one more?
Cool.
Point of order, point of personal privilege, and point of, oh, I'm seriously blanking. Oh my gosh.
Point of information? It's a point of information.
Point of order, point of information, point of personal privilege. Which of these best reflects your personality and why?
I'd say point of order, actually. And I'd say the reason for that is because I like to make sure things stay on track, and I like to make sure that people know what they're talking about. And when they're not talking about the right thing, I get irritated usually. So.
All right. So we'll get into the vote now. So Zaid, if you could like step away from your laptop so you can't see the.
I'll just leave my room.
There you go. Make sure you don't have headphones in. Okay. All right, so you can see at the bottom of motion 3, there is a little table with the name Zaid in it because he's our only nominee. So if you have confidence in General Member Chasm to fulfill the role of Speaker and Chief Electoral Officer, just put a little Y under Zaid, little letter Y.
Where is this again?
It is in the Speaker's Queue document under the table for Motion 3.
What a smart
Also, by
guy.
the way, this is just for voting members. So we'll do honor system. If you're not a voting member, do not put anything into. Yeah. All right. Is he gonna? I might have to like text him or something. I don't know. If
Just
anyone-
yell really loudly.
Zaid. Oh, did that actually work? Oh my gosh. Okay.
It worked.
All right. So the vote of confidence was given to General Member Kasim. I do not have a closing for this motion. Be it resolved that Council elects Zaid Kasim as the Speaker and Chief Electoral Officer of the Engineering Society for the 2020-2021 academic year, moved by Ben Zerikny, seconded by Thomas Wright. All for? Okay, that should be it. Motion passes. All right. Zaid, would you like to get into it right now? If not, I could finish council as speaker.
Sure. Let me give this a go.
All right. Well,
Try this out.
The agenda.
I do have the agenda. Let me just pull it up on the side of my computer. Might need to help me with a couple points.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. We are moving on to motion 4. Okay, whereas we just elected a speaker and whereas every speaker needs a trustee deputy, be it resolved that council elect blank as the deputy speaker for the 2020-2021 academic year, moved by Thomas, washed left, right, seconded by Ben, washed right, Zerikny. Do we have an opening?
Yeah, I do have an opening. Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. This position has to be filled by a voting member of council. It just exists in case Zaid can't make it or has to step out of council at any point. That's it.
Do you want to take the reins on the rest of this, Thomas?
Yeah, sure. I can forward you along the speaker's queue document if you don't have that already. But
lovely.
It looks like we have no questions about the rule. So would you like to open it up to nominations?
Yes. Let's open that up to nominations. Thomas, you have a nomination.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I would like to nominate Andrew Vassala.
Sure. I'd like to nominate Julia Takamoto.
I respectfully decline.
Oh, we need someone to second my thing, but it's a point of order.
I'll second Andrew.
Second Andrew. Okay.
Seeing no one else, guess we only have Andrew then. So I guess we move on to questions. Do you have a question, Thomas?
I do. I'll just ask the same, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I'll ask the same first question I asked Speaker Kasim. So how would you approach enforcing the rules of council throughout the year?
Sure. So I think overall, more than anything, it's about respect. You know, at the end of the day, we are elected representatives who are volunteering our time to benefit the society. And so just making sure that, everyone still has an enjoyable time at council while, making sure that they're still informed and educated during discussions and just respectful to the overall society and the operations it upholds.
Amazing. Do we have any other questions from anyone else? Thomas again.
All right. I don't need to ask Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I don't need to ask the Chief Electoral Officer questions. So, Andrew Vassala, point of order, point of information, point of personal privilege. Which of these best reflects your personality and why?
Great question. I'd say I'm probably a point of information because I possess a wealth of knowledge in my lovely 4 years with the Engineering Society. And, I've had the chance to be on council all 4 years and just look forward to sharing that experience going forwards.
Amazing. Cool. Does anyone else have any questions for nominee and Vassala? Seeing none, we will move on to the vote. So if Andrew, you could maybe peace out with your phone, and then we can call you back.
I'll be outside.
Lovely. And if everyone else can vote using the same method you guys just did the previous vote, that would be lovely. Cool. It's good. I will text him, or someone else can text him.
I just saw it on Messenger.
I'm good.
Oh, you're back? Cool.
Alrighty.
Well, motion passes, or what's it called, vote passes. So that means be resolved that Council-elect Andrew Vassala as the Deputy Speaker for the 2020-2021 academic year, moved by Thomas Washed Left Right, seconded by Ben Washed Right Zarikny. And then we can do the votes in this thing.
Oh.
If you want to check that out, Thomas. I don't really understand this system yet. Jumping right into it here. Cool, motion passes.
Oh. I've only got 11 out of 22 so far.
Where are we?
On motion 4.
Maybe I'm on like the wrong thing. Voting. Oh, yo, I totally am.
Get your votes in.
I'm gonna need you to do the votes and stuff.
Yeah, I'll just let you know.
Yeah.
We won't use this at the next council.
Cool.
All right, motion passes.
Awesome. Moving on to motion 5, whereas the bed fund has a general fund and whereas this general fund needs a representative, be it resolved that Council-elect blank, the general bed fund representative for the 2020-2021 academic year, moved by Julia, salute the Barnes James, seconded by Nick, General Arnott. Do we have a opening?
Yeah, so I'm looking for one bed fund, just general representative. It's open to anyone. Bed fund stands for Better Education Donation Endowment Fund, and it provides undergraduate engineering students with money to direct towards any educational cause that they want. So that can include purchasing lab equipment, purchasing materials for the ILC, purchasing software access, or even in some cases purchasing equipment for design teams. It's really all about students deciding where money should be directed and how the educational experience can be improved in Queen's Engineering. The role just involves writing a proposal on how the general funds should be spent, and it's really all about generating ideas. In terms of commitment, I mean, the proposal, it's like 3 to 6 pages and mostly in the fall, very relaxed. It's a flexible position, but it's great because you get to see something tangible come from your work and you can make a difference. So yeah.
Awesome. Do we have any nominations? Anyone who wants to
I
nominate?
nominate Julia Takamoto.
Do we have a seconder for that?
I second.
Make sure to use the speaker's cue.
Julia, do you accept?
Oh, yes, I do accept. Wait. To be
You
clear,
can be nominated too.
me, Julia, or the other Julia?
Point of information, Julia Takamoto was nominated, and I was on a Zoom call with her earlier, and her Zoom has been like glitching, so it's possible that she was kicked out of the meeting and is working on joining it again right now.
We will wait for her then to come back, and if anyone else wants
I
to
also nominate Julia Newcomb.
do you have a seconder for that? And also make sure we're using the speaker's key, everyone.
I'll second that.
Lovely. Julia, do you?
I respectfully decline the nomination.
Okay.
Point of order, Spencer Lee, President. Do we have to use the speaker's cue when we're seconding something?
Point of information, no.
Okay, noted. Yeah, not used to the Zoom councils yet.
Point of information, I was the general representative last year, and I would highly recommend the position to anyone. It is pretty low commitment, super flexible. You can just sort of work on your proposal whenever you have time. So it's not like it's a weekly thing where you have to do it every single week. It's just like whenever it's convenient for you, you can work on it. Super low commitment, looks amazing on a resume. You can put on your resume that you like managed $50,000. So I would highly recommend you to nominate anyone you think would be good for the role, or if you are just interested, nominate yourself.
Thank you for that, Peter. Do we have any more nominations? You can nominate yourself in the speaker's queue if you like. Peter.
Nominate Morgan Sherwin.
Do we have a seconder?
I respectfully decline.
I nominate Evan Ray.
I
Respectfully
second.
decline.
I second.
Also, Andrew, use the speaker's queue.
Yeah.
Point of information, does Julia have a response to her nomination earlier?
Not yet. Julia, you had people that were nominating you. How do you feel about it? Do you accept your nomination? No? Okay. Noted.
Okay.
Anybody?
Is that it? I mean, if you change your mind, like you can always email me later. But
Rain just put his name in.
Yeah. I nominate Thomas Mulvihill.
Do we have a seconder for that?
I second.
Second.
Thomas, what do you feel about that?
I'll respectfully decline if that's all right.
Yeah, that's okay.
Point of order, remember to use name and position before you speak.
Good reminder, Thomas. Yeah.
I would like to nominate
Your
Roche.
name and speak.
Oh, sorry. Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. I would like to nominate Roche.
Second.
Yeah, sure. I'll do it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
My internet's very well.
Point of order, by the way, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance, make sure to use members' full name when nominating them. Makes it more convenient for the secretary. All right. Representative Kassim is having some, or Speaker Kassim, sorry, is having some technical difficulties. So I'll just step in for now, unless the Deputy Speaker would like to run things.
How is it possible I've had this job for 3 years and have never had to step in? Hi, everyone. Deputy Speaker Andrew Vassal here, newly elected. Do we have any further nominations? Please. I see, oh, no, we're out. Thomas, I think with that kind of sitting here, maybe we should table the motion perhaps for next week, or someone can reach out to Julia directly.
Sorry, point of information, did Director Gunavardhana not accept his nomination?
Yeah, I thought he did.
Point of information, I did.
Oh, dope.
I don't know if I used that right. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I apologize. So in that case, we'll move into a question period. So the first question can come from the mover of the motion. So Julia, if you have a first question, you can dive in here.
Okay, I just prepared one question, which is, can you give an example of a lab or project that you really enjoyed in your time at Queen's Engineering?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's been a lot of projects that have interested in me greatly, but I would probably say the most interesting is the first one I did in APSC 100. Partly because of the reason that was my first experience dealing with university work, and it was crazy. It was insane, the amount of things I had to do for our, I think it was the Mars project, where you had to like design a bunch of stuff, pretend like you're on Mars or whatever. And it was a huge collaborative effort, and it required me to work with all of my teammates to a high degree. And it was obviously very challenging. But despite that, we made it through, and we had a great report, and we managed to organize everything very well. And it just goes to show that, like, you know, even if things get tough, you can always find a way if you're just willing to do the work. And I think that was an important lesson that I learned early on that I appreciate to this day.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Zay, do you want to jump back in, or am I still running things?
My internet is not very good right now, so gonna go grab my computer charger, and hopefully it starts working better. So if you could take over for me for a little bit.
So Julia, do you have a second question? Otherwise, we can move to the seconder of the motion, which would be Nick.
I'm happy to. Nope, that's my only question.
Nick, do you have a question?
Nick Garnett, Director of Academics. We do have in the speakers queue a couple names popped up. If you would like to go to those.
So is Thomas the first question? I saw he put his name in brackets. I apologize. I was not prepared for virtual council.
Point of information, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. If anyone has put their name in the queue for the first time for a question, then they take priority over me.
Jeez. So I think that is that Director Newcomb then that's first? I see a space between the names there. Where is it?
Point of information that was from earlier. Sorry, I don't know. Should we delete our names after we've spoken?
I think maybe going, I don't know. I think questions are difficult. I honestly, Thomas, I think that's probably best for you as the person who set it up, but in this case, I no longer see any names other than Thomas. So if Thomas wants to go, I think that's probably our easiest way of doing things.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. We'll figure something out there. For transitioning from nominations to questions, I would say yes, take your name off the list in between those two.
Or perhaps you could put a Q in front of your name to indicate questions.
I do like that better. All right, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. So my question for the nominee, what ideas would you bring for your discipline to the bed fund to purchase new equipment or other things throughout the year?
Can I point of information right now?
Yeah, it's like an interrupting thing, so you can.
Okay, yeah, just point of information. The general rep, it's not for his or her discipline. You can actually apply it to anything, but I think the question can still go through if you want.
Yeah, that's my bad. Yeah, I'll retract it. Actually, that's not particularly pertinent.
I did prepare a second question, but there was only one applicant. Would you like me to ask another question?
Let's have the second question just for consistency.
Okay. My second question is, can you give me an example of how you might generate ideas amongst your peers?
That's a great question. Thank you. I think there's numerous methods to do that, just in general. But I feel like in terms of addressing your peers, a very useful method is like focus groups, in terms of gathering a few of them together with varied perspectives on different things and just getting their thoughts on the problem at hand. And I find that it works extremely well in most cases. And I believe that would be the same here.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll take one more question from Emily Bougea, and then I think we'll end things there and get to the vote. So Member Bougea.
Emily Bougea, General Member. As the general representative for the bed fund, you'll likely get a lot of different ideas and a very wide range of ideas of differing viability. How will you decide which of these ideas gets funding as opposed from this long list that will likely be generated?
I think this actually ties well with the previous question, because I do believe it depends a lot on the general consensus, in the sense where this clearly is a decision that affects a lot of people under a portfolio with a certain sum of money. And at the end of the day, it should be allocated to a certain object or service, or whatever the case may be, that affects the most people and generates the most positive outcome from that. So in that sense, it really revolves around the thought process of like what everyone considers to be important and what the NSTOC considers to be important and viable. And yeah. Hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you very much. So I think we're going to cut off questions at 3 there. So at this point, Roche, I'm just going to ask you to step away from your computer. And if everyone wants to join onto the speakers queue page, and since this is a vote of confidence, we will just take votes of Y, or in the second box, N. All right. Big claps. So in this case, be it resolved that Council-elect Roche, sorry, I don't know your last name, as the General Bed Fund rep.
Gunavardhana.
Yeesh. May it be resolved that Council-elect Roche Gunavardhana, the General Bed Fund representative for the 2020-2021 academic year, moved by Julia Barnes-James, seconded by Nick Arnott. I guess that's it. We've already done the all in favor. So, motion passes.
Hold it, still got to vote on the motion.
Great.
Oh, well, didn't we just vote?
You can
Oh,
come back
sorry.
now.
So
I'm gonna,
vote
yeah,
on-
sorry for taking over. My
So-
internet was not.
on motion 5, we'll vote on that now. All in favor, all opposed. I was not prepared for this. So
We're all learning.
I may be paying Zaid's internet bill next month. Get him an upgrade.
All right, yeah, motion passes.
I'll hand the gavel back to Zaid.
Thank you. Can you guys, right? Am I off a lot?
You're a little choppy.
Oh no. Yeah, everything off. Anyways, keep talking, and if message. Okay, so motions. First, to sit on the Bursary, so distribute decide who these people are going to be. Resolved that council elect blank and blank to sit on the Julia, Bursary, Newcomb, second Spencer, financially Lee, accessibility. Do we have anything from Director New President Lee?
Yes, I'm sorry, Zaid, you're a little choppy there, but I do have some information on what sitting on the Bursary Committee entails. So the Bursary Committee receives applications for all sorts of bursaries from members who want to attend general conferences or for GPAs. And so bursary applications are submitted, and we need a committee to make decisions on whether we give money to those applications or not. So meetings tend to happen, at least from what I've heard, because I haven't sat on the Bursary Committee before, about every 2 weeks. And these are about 2 hours long. So you attend, you try to make unbiased decisions, and that's kind of the extent of your role. This is an exciting year for the Bursary Committee because we have a few different changes coming. We're going to use a different chair this year. We're hiring a chair for the Bursary Committee this year, which you guys will hear about a little later. And we're also going to try to create some accountability procedures for the Bursary Committee. So it's definitely a good year to be involved to help kind of decide how the Bursary Committee is going to be run for future years. Oh, and another thing, we're actually hiring 4 positions for general members. Right now, I'm sorry, the agenda lists 3 general members, and then we're saving 1 position for a first-year member, which will be elected at next council.
All right, guess I'm back. So if anybody wants to fill in the speaker's queue, we will now entertain nominations. President Takamoto.
Julie Takamoto, Side 2 Pres. I nominate Andrew Vasila.
This is going to get fun. I accept. I don't know how we're going to do this. Hope Zaid gets back.
Point of information, I can step in for you.
Love it.
Speaker Vasila.
All right. Director Wright.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I nominate Sylvia Seja.
I respectfully decline.
All right. Senator Matthews.
Peter Matthews, Senior Senator. I nominate Julia Takamoto.
Second.
I accept.
All right. So do we have any further nominations? We do need to hit the 3. Ooh, we've got Senator Matthews.
Peter Matthews, Senior Senator. I nominate Morgan Sherwin.
I respectfully decline.
All right. Director Newcomb.
Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. I nominate Catherine Faulkner.
I accept.
Right. President Takamoto.
I was also going to nominate Morgan, but.
All right. I apologize. I don't know your position. Representative Asija.
Sylvia Sija, proxy for junior senator. I nominate Allison Wong.
Second.
I respectfully decline.
All right. Director Wright.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I nominate Evan Ray.
I respectfully decline.
Understandable. Director Teasler?
Rain Teasler, Director, first year. I nominate David Fliss.
Second. Point of information. President Fliss, do you accept the nomination for the Bursary Committee?
I will respectfully decline.
All right. It appears we've reached the end of the speakers queue. If anyone has any interest in self-nomination, please do so. I see a late addition from Director Wright.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I nominate Kamal Jathu.
I second.
I accept.
All right, so I think that reaches the end of the queue. We'll just give 30 seconds if anyone is interested in self-nomination, and then we'll move into questions, and I will transition the role back to Thomas.
Point of information.
I'm back. I fixed my internet now. I should be all good to go. Thanks, Andrew.
Much love.
My mistake.
So we'll move into questions.
All right. So do we have a question from, the mover? I'm sorry, my agenda is not up right now. Julia, awesome. Do you have a question?
Yes. How will you minimize your personal bias when making decisions with the committee?
Great. So let's start off with Kamal.
I think it's important to leave at the door, and when I justify any decisions to the committee, just state where I'm coming from. I think the committee will hold other people accountable, and I know, frankly speaking, that any personal bias I have doesn't come into any decision making. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. Let's move on to Catherine.
Okay, hello. I think a really important way to deal with your own personal bias is to acknowledge it. And so when you're making a decision, not to assume that you don't have it, but to say, how could my biases affect this decision? And then relook at your decision and kind of take a second view at it. And also to make sure you talk about your own biases when you're making these decisions and say, these are biases I have, and I want to make sure that I'm not letting them play a role in my decision.
Awesome. Thank you. Moving on, let's go to Julia.
Hi. I think the fact that the applications are all anonymous is a really big factor in avoiding any kind of bias about the applicant. I think also relying on complete honesty between different members of the committee, just calling each other out, holding each other accountable on decisions that might be biased. And like Catherine said, being honest about my own personal bias, making sure that I consider where all these different decisions are coming from and how my personal experiences might have shaped my opinion about the applicants.
Thank you, Julia. And last but not least, Andrew.
Hey everyone. So I've actually had the pleasure of sitting on this board of this committee for the last 3 years since Laurel and Ryan founded it. I think that it's really, really important to, as has been iterated earlier, to really make sure that you're going into each separate application with a clear head and not continuing any sort of biases or assumptions. And it's really, really important to overall understand that you're framing the information only in the scope of what's given and not allowing yourself to extrapolate or make any additional assumptions.
Thanks, Andrew. So that was the end of that first question. Do we have Any more questions from the members of council? If you guys could look up at the speakers queue. Or if the movers have any additional questions. Seeing none, we are going to move into the vote. Oh, nope, I just saw one. Director Newcomb, you have a question.
Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. Second question is, why do you think financial accessibility is important within the engineering society?
Awesome, good question. So we are going to move backwards this time. So if nominee Vasila could answer first.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question, and it comes from how why this committee was established. And so we have a lot of really incredible traditions at Queen's Engineering, and the unfortunate reality is, since they're so established and fantastic, a lot of them have become particularly expensive. Between orientation week bursaries, GPA bursaries, sci-formal bursaries, we really just want to be able to convey the engineering experience in a way that's accessible to all, particularly in an environment that's been ravaged by COVID, where a lot of people lost their jobs and are struggling to make some of those ends meet. So I think overall, we want to provide the full depth of experience regardless of someone's background.
Awesome. Let's move on next to nominee Takamoto.
I think it's really important to provide financial accessibility just as a way of recognizing that students come from different amounts of privilege, and we need to recognize the privilege that different students are given on a financial and social level and find a way to kind of equalize the playing field as much as we possibly can, at least when it comes to financial accessibility to different events. Like Andrew mentioned, a lot of the events that we do and a lot of our traditions are very expensive, and not all students are able to rely on someone else to help them fund their university experience. And so I think it's really important to help them get the most out of their experience, like anybody else here would.
Thank you, Julia. So moving on to nominee Faulkner.
Hello again. So yeah, I think what they said is really important. But in general, like being a Queen's engineer isn't about what you come into it with. So providing this kind of way for everyone to have an equal playing field is really important, right? Like everyone should have the right to come and experience or have the opportunity to experience the same things if they want to. And the unfortunate truth is there are social and financial barriers. So whatever we can do as a society to decrease them, I think is really important to giving everyone their chance to have the experience they want.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, let's go on to nominee Jitu.
It's J2, sorry.
My apologies.
It's okay. I think in today's climate where there is a lot of challenges in place already, it's the role of NSOC to support engineering students to kind of equal that playing field and provide equity rather than equality, so we can bring up people who have different challenges that others might not face. And especially given that a lot of money doesn't actually get used, I think it's important to provide the support that's needed so people can actually achieve what's within their actual limits.
Awesome, thank you very much. So do we have one more question? We can take one more question from any member of council. You guys could go into the speaker's queue if you have one more question. We'll give it 10 seconds and then we'll move on to the vote. I see nothing. So we'll move on to the vote. Oh, no, just kidding. I do see one. I don't know what your position, so, oh yes. So we'll go member Matthew Green.
Hi, Matthew Green, Side 21 AMS representative. My question for the nominees is, how much do you think luck played a role in your getting into Queen's Engineering and your position on this council?
Awesome, thank you for that question. We will start off with nominee Jitu.
I think even given hard work, especially in applications, there is luck and of course like the bias of whoever's looking at it. So I think that's an important thing to recognize, especially when you can bring other people up. Despite any work you've put in place, I obviously know that I have the privilege and luxury of having parents that supported me to have extracurriculars, whereas some people might not have that and might have just focused on earning money. So I'm going to use that to drive me if I'm given this position.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to nominee Faulkner.
Sorry. So yeah, I think luck played maybe not a huge role in getting in, but of course to a certain degree. Like where I was born, the access I had to science as a young age. My dad's a physics teacher, so I always grew up with a lot of science around. That's why I liked engineering. But I think a huge amount of luck came into why I'm on this council. I was elected first year as a section rep because I was friends with someone who was elected vice president, and she pushed me to do it. And because she was in my frosh group, I knew her, which was really a complete chance. So I think luck played a huge role for me.
Awesome, thank you. Moving on to nominee Takamoto.
Hi, yeah, so pretty similar to Catherine. I think I did put in a lot of hard work to get to Queen's and to be a part of just like the general engineering society, but definitely luck played a role in who I met during Frosh Week. My Frex who, I lucked out to have Frex who were in NSHOC and who really did push me to join and to become involved within NSHOC. And I think there was a bit of luck in just how elections went and me getting the position I have to be sitting here talking to all of you today. But I do think there was hard work in there, and I do think I put in a good amount of effort to get where I am too. So yes, there was luck, but there was hard work too.
Awesome, thank you. Let's move on to nominee Vasila.
Thanks. So I think this is actually a phenomenal question. And I think to answer it from my own perspective, I'm going to start with Queens and then quickly dive into council. So obviously, I think like everyone here, we all had to work very hard for our degree of success. And I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where I could dedicate a lot of my time to studying. And so that's a privilege that I certainly recognize, and one that on this committee, I want to make sure that it's accessible to everybody regardless of the background they came from. When it comes to the committee, I think at the end of the day, like has kind of been established, a lot of these votes, I was on exec since first year. And so I think when you're in first year, you don't have a lot of experience. It is a bit of a crapshoot. And then I think your experience starts to compound. So at the end of the day, I think we need to make sure that we're making our experience from the accessible from the get-go so that we're able to promote that inclusion as the years compound.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So that's all the questions we will be taking. We are now going to move on to the vote. Just a reminder that everyone gets 4 votes for this election. If everyone, wait, could you clarify that, Thomas?
Yeah, so since there are 4 positions available that we
Point of information, there are 3 positions. The first one is being reserved for like a first year. Or one of the 4.
Point of information, we're electing 5 positions total, 4 today, and 1 more is a first year.
Sorry.
Great. So Thomas, how many votes does everyone have?
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance, everyone gets 4 votes. So this is a vote of confidence.
Great. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so everyone has 4 votes. So if I could get the 4 nominees to leave the room, leave the computer for a little bit, that would be lovely. And if everyone could get voting, that would be great. Awesome. So they all pass. So loud claps, you guys can come back. Awesome. So all of those, I'm not sure if they're back or not, but I'm just gonna keep going. All of those pass. So be it resolved that council.
Point of information.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
We should offer the movers a closing.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, still getting used to this. Do any of the movers have a closing?
Director of Social Issues, Julia Newcomb. Thank you guys so much for taking the time this year to be part of this committee. It's going to help make a huge difference for the people who apply. So just thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. So be it resolved that council-elect Andrew Vasila, Julia Takamoto, Catherine Faulkner, and Kamala Jatu to sit on the Bursary Committee. This is moved by Julia, Bursaries for All Newcomb, seconded by Spencer, Financial Accessibility, Lee. All in favor.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Thomas. Moving on to motion 7. Whereas it is the first council, and whereas it's time to elect some members for the Committee on External Communications, be it resolved that council elect blank, blank, and blank to sit on the Committee on External Communications. Moved by Roshana Quiplash 2 Beast Gunawardana, seconded by Thomas Worst Bibbage Player Wright. Do we have an opening by either Director Gunawardana or Director Wright?
Yeah, I'll open. So Rosh Gunawardana, Director of External Relations. Nice to meet everybody. I'm just going to give you a little overview of what the committee is. So essentially, we examine various mechanisms that the engineering society should employ to develop relationships with external bodies, universities, or organizations. So this comes in the form of speaking with ESCO, which is the provincial engineering body that oversees like provincial schools like us, Ryerson, Waterloo, Western, stuff like that. And then CFES, which is the Canadian Federation of Engineering Societies, which is obviously the Canadian schools outside of Ontario as well. And this involves a lot of communication with the organizations themselves and also the individual schools involved, which is a lot of them. And I think that's a cool position because you get to speak with a lot of people from all over Canada and be introduced to like kind of like how they operate, which is pretty interesting, I think. And the main goal of this committee is to kind of like analyze the developments in these organizations with these schools. And at AGM, we'll be giving a report on recommendations concerning external communications with these schools and organizations, which we will all work on collectively. And I should elaborate on that. So I'll be chairing this committee, and it'll have the president, the external communications officer, director of social issues, and then minimum of 3 voting members of council. So that's whoever you guys are. So that's minimum, but there's no maximum. So anyone that's interested should just feel free to speak up. I think it's a super cool position. You get to communicate with a bunch of universities and everything. And yeah, that's my spiel.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that opening. Let us move on to nominations. Do we have any nominations? Director Wright?
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I nominate Matthew Green.
Sure, I'll accept.
Awesome.
Do we have a seconder?
Yes, do we have a seconder
I'll
for that?
second. Andrew Vassila, Site 2-1 VP.
Awesome, thank you. Senator Matthews.
Peter Matthews, Senior Senator. I nominate Julia Takamoto.
We have a seconder for that.
Second.
Julia?
I respectfully decline.
Okay. Member Vassila.
I nominate Evan Ray.
Do we have a seconder?
And Emily Bougea.
Also second.
Respectfully
I
decline.
respectfully decline.
Okay. Senator Matthews.
Peter Matthews, Senior Senator. I nominate Catherine Faulkner.
Do you have a seconder?
Second.
I'll second.
I accept.
Awesome, thank you. Great. Director Wright.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I nominate Sylvia Suja.
Do you have a seconder?
Sure, I'll second.
I'll second.
Awesome.
Respectfully decline.
Okay. We can accept some self-nominations as well, if you would like to also put run and you don't want people to nominate you. Senator Matthews.
Matthews, Senior Senator. I nominate Morgan Sherwin.
Do you have a second?
Second.
I respectfully decline.
Thank you. I'll give it 10 more seconds. Director Wright.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I'm sorry for speaking up so much. I nominate David Fliss.
Do we have a
Seconded.
second? David?
I respectfully decline.
Okay. Member Vasila.
That's VP Vassila to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm still unaware of people's positions and everything. So
all good. I nominate Peter Matthews and Miranda Bungard.
do we have seconds?
I'll second.
I respectfully decline.
As do I. Thank you.
Okay, that is all the nominations I will be taking. Let's move on to questions. So, does the opener have a question for our two nominees?
Yes, I do. So my question is, what do you believe is the most important aspect of communicating with these external NSOCs?
Awesome, thank you very much. So we will start off with nominee Green.
I believe that the most important aspect in communicating with anybody is to make sure you're clear and that the communication on both ends is being understood by all parties involved and that there's no miscommunication that's happening.
Awesome, thank you very much. Let's move on to nominee Faulkner.
I think the most important aspect, like in terms specifically with other engineering societies, is making sure that it's a mutual relationship, that we're not just going to people and being like, hey, this is what we want to learn from you, to make sure we make ourselves available to be communicated with as well. So it's not just a one-way street.
Awesome, thank you very much. I'll be taking only one more question just for time's sake, because we're running a little over time. Does anyone else have any questions? If you can please put your name in the speaker's queue. Or if any of the openers have a question, you can just go right into it. Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move on to the vote. To clarify, everyone has 2 votes. So these are votes of confidence. So if the 2 nominees could step away from their computers, be away from the computer, that'd be amazing, thank you. If everyone can get voting, that would be lovely. Okay, yep, they will pass. Awesome, thank you. Y'all can come back. So both nominations pass. Do we have a closing?
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. Roche. Oh, sorry, I thought Roche was frozen.
If there's no closing, we can just move on. So we will move on. Cool. Awesome. So council, be it resolved that council-elect Matthew Green and Catherine Faulkner to sit on the Committee on External Relations, moved by Roshana Quiplash to Beast, Gunawardana, seconded by Thomas, worst Fibbage player. Right. All in favor. Please use the speaker's queue now. Or voting, not that. Voting. And Thomas will let me know if it happens.
Not sure if I'm using this right, but point of information. As a voting member and a nominee, do I have to abstain from this?
Point of information, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. You can if you want. Most people usually do. But if you want to vote on the motion, yes, that's also allowed.
All votes are indeed allowed.
Yep, motion passes.
Awesome, thank you, Thomas. So moving on to motion 8. Whereas there is no bursary bank account, and whereas there is a QuickBooks bursary expense account where we can document bursary spending, and whereas we can do e-transfers now. Be it resolved that council approve the changes made to policy sections. Oh my, is that row? I don't know what that is.
Point of information. I don't know.
Okay, that I'm gonna say that's a P. PB, PC.
Point of information, it is row.
Oh, lovely. Row B, row C, and row E. As seen in appendix, put it on my bill. Moved by Salma, Financial Wizard Ibrahim, and seconded by Julia, Social Justice Warrior Newcomb. Do we have an opening?
Yes, we do have an opening. Hi, Salma Ibrahim, Director of Finance. So over the summer, Julia and I noticed a lot of procedural and logistical issues with the financial portion of bursary policy that we wanted to address this year. Some processes that are dictated in policy aren't things that are very feasible or make sense in practice. Just like, for example, awarding jacket bursaries is very tedious, not very discreet. So this motion is kind of the first step towards that. We don't have a bursary bank account as the policy dictates, but we do have a QuickBooks internal account that we don't use, but we should be using. Typically, these bursary expenses are put into the Director of Social Issues or Director of Clubs and Conferences expense account, but that gets mixed up with a lot of other expenses that those portfolios have. So if we consistently use this account that we don't use, the bursary account, we can start building better documentation of our bursary expenses, how much we end up actually spending on bursaries every year, and implementing that into policy will make sure it is used for years to come. And this will help us make better, more informed decisions about budgeting for bursaries every year. There's also something we had to deal with that was the discretion of awarding bursaries. With the new implementation of e-transfers by the previous VP Ops, Janelle Lee, this makes awarding bursaries so much more quicker, so much more discreet. The only people who would be able to see that would be Director of Finance, VP Ops, and the Bursary Committee, which is also already anonymous anyway. And so that way less people have access to seeing the checks in the NSOC lounge. And then we also wanted to address the issue of people only receiving their bursary as a reimbursement. So they would like initially pay and then get reimbursed for that payment. We want to avoid that. Instead of giving people their money after they have already paid, we need to give it to them beforehand, which is something we should be doing anyway, but in practice, it doesn't actually happen. So for conferences, this presents another problem of, well, how do we know that the money we send out is going to be going to its designed purpose? So we introduced another aspect of the application where the applicant would attach proof of like any like acceptance to a conference, internal or external, and that way we would know that yes, this person has the intention of going to that conference, so yes, we can send them that money through e-transfer. So that is all. I will take any questions if anyone has any.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Director Ibrahim. Do we have any questions from the members of council? If you could please use the speaker's queue now.
Point of information. Thomas
Yes.
Wright, Director of Governance. I'll just remind, now that we are into the policy change motions and whatnot, that the mover and seconder of a motion have the right to a direct response. So if there is like a question that's brought up in debate, although you can't like directly address someone, everything has to go through the speaker. I just broke that rule. If there is a question asked, that a mover or seconder can answer, they can direct response and go to the front of the speaker's queue to answer that question.
Thank you for that, Thomas. Awesome. So we'll be taking any questions now. I'm seeing none right now, but I'll give people some time. Amazing. General Member Hoskin, I know you have a position I keep forgetting.
David Hoskin, Apple Math President.
Thank you.
So just in section E1, it sounds like a really good change to make e-transfer an option. I know one of the things like I'd seen on Race by FAAS was issues where people felt like bursaries weren't discrete, so this looks like a really good change. Just my question is, it says where possible, bursaries will be awarded through e-transfer. So I just want to wonder I was wondering if that isn't possible, what the procedure would be.
Direct response, Salma Ibrahim, Director of Finance. So where it wouldn't be possible would be something like GPAs, where you have to pay in person. And that's like, as I mentioned, there's a lot of issues with the bursary policy right now that we want to work on. Right now, we don't know what's I personally don't know what's happening exactly with GPAs. So that's something I would have to coordinate with Julia and maybe with CEO. That's just one example of where it might not be possible. For example, EngLinks has already their own bursary thing where they have like a code that you can put in, and that's awesome. But something like GPAs is something we pay like in person. So that's something we would have to look into later on. I will probably be thinking about this in the next year and putting another motion in to make a change to the process for GPAs. Yeah.
Awesome.
And another point of information.
Yeah, go for it.
Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. We've kept all the existing procedures for awarding bursaries. So if it can't be awarded via e-transfer, it will fall back onto what we were previously doing.
Thank you for that. Do we have any additional questions? We'll give it like 5 more seconds because I'm seeing it nada. Cool. Seeing nothing, we will move on to the vote. Do we have a closing first?
Closing. Selma Ibrahim, Director of Finance. I think this is just a great start to making our financial accountability and accessibility so much better. So your vote is very much appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Selma. Let's move on to the vote. I'm just finding my agenda really quickly. My tab's just closed.
Information, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. We're on motion 8.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Be it resolved that Council approve the changes made to policy sections Row B, Row C, and Row E as seen in Appendix Put It On My Bill. Moved by Selma, Financial Wizard Ibrahim. Seconded by Julia, Social Justice Warrior Newcomb. You may vote now.
Motion passes.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. So moving on to motion 9. Whereas the DOSI policy needs a tune-up, be it resolved that Council approve the changes to policy section Beta C14 as seen in Appendix DOSI tune-up, moved by Julia, the tuner, Newcomb, seconded by Spencer, the upper, Lee. Do we have an opening?
Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. So this is really just updating some like tiny details within the Director of Social Issues portfolio. The December 6th memorial is now part of the DOSI portfolio, so I've changed one of my reps' names. So there are events and media. We are changing the structure of the Bursary Committee, so we're adding a Bursary Committee chair. We're hiring for the Sustainability Committees, and that falls under my portfolio, so I've added 5 general members for the Sustainability Committee. And then I'd also like to change the Inclusivity Committee to the Equity Committee. It's the same committee, but we just call it in practice the Equity Committee, so it's simpler for policy to reflect that. And that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from member of council? As of now, I see nothing in the speaker's queue. President Hoskin.
I am David Hoskin, Apple Math President. So I was just looking under point I in the policy there, where it's talking about like acting as a support and providing resources. So specifically what I was wondering is, like when we're dealing with a lot of these EDI issues, like they can be quite complicated, they can be quite challenging. And so I was wondering if perhaps like part of what we could do with the resources is have like the Director of Social Issues act as a sort of liaison between groups and offices that exist within the university. Like there's areas like the Human Rights Office There's like the SWS, and these are like the professionals who it's their job to deal with these hard problems. So I was just wondering if like perhaps the director of social issues could act as sort of an in-between, so we can work with the professionals when we're dealing with some of these hard problems.
Point of information. The Director of Social Issues sits on the Equity Caucus, which is a caucus formed by all of the equity officers from the various student societies. So that's one way where the Director of Social Issues might fall under liaising. Does this question directly relate to any of the policy changes that I've made?
David Hoskin, Apple Math president. It was more just, I wanted to kind of like see that helping like be that connection, just because like I know this year like EDI is a big focus and trying to deal with some of these problems. So just having that connection to like professionals who like have experience in these areas, I think could help when groups are trying to implement things. So I think
just to make everyone aware, if questions don't pertain to any of the policy changes directly, there's a time at the end of council for general questions, so we can take those sorts of questions at the end. But if anyone has any questions pertaining to the specific policy, then those we can discuss now. Awesome. Spencer, I just saw you moved your name. You're all good?
Yeah, Spencer Lee, President, I yield.
Okay, lovely. Great. So seeing no more discussion, we will move on to the vote. So be it resolved that council approve the changes to policy section beta C14 as seen in appendix DOSI tune-up, moved by Julia, the tuner Newcomb, seconded by...
Thomas has a point of order.
Oh, go for it, Thomas. My apologies.
All good. Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. Do either of the movers have a closing?
Yes, I forgot about that again. Okay. Lovely. Okay, now, be it resolved that council approve the changes to policy section beta C14 as seen in appendix DOSI tune-up, moved by Julia, the tuner Newcomb, seconded by Spencer, the upper Lee. You may all vote now.
Waiting on around 3 more.
3 more votes.
Oh. Motion passes.
Thank you, Thomas. So moving on to the next motion, motion 10. Whereas the world is literally currently on fire, and whereas we should do our part to prevent climate change by having an environmental sustainability committee. Be it resolved that council approve the first reading of the changes to bylaw 9, standing committees as seen in appendix sustainability, moved by Julia. Let's have less forest fires. Newcomb, seconded by Thomas, the governor. Right. Do we have an opening? Director Newcomb.
Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. So we are creating we'd like to create a sustainability committee to help promote environmental sustainability within our community. So by running initiatives and ideally creating a long-term sustainability plan for the Engineering Society that can be presented and approved by council. This committee is going to be primarily run by the environmental sustainability representative under the Director of Social Issues. And it is a really good opportunity to help reduce NSOC's ecological footprint and make a difference.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? You may please put them now in the speakers queue. I'm going to give it 10 seconds because I see none. Oh, someone's typing. Yes. President Lappin, do you have a question?
Kate Lappin, President of Side 21. I was just wondering, I'm not sure if this is too specific right now, but could you please define what you mean by long-term? And how big of a scale would this implementation be?
So this would be totally up to the committee to decide. And of course, this plan that they create will be sent to council so that you guys can look over it and approve it. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking like a 5 to 10 year plan.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have any more questions? President Takimoto. Julia, are you good to ask a question?
I was muted.
Oh, my.
Can you guys hear me?
No, yeah, we didn't hear anything. Just
Cool. Sorry. Julia Takimoto, Sci 22 Pres. I know right now in the appendix, it says that the members of the committee are going to include 5 general members. I'm wondering if you want to specify if they have to be voting members or not. And I'm also wondering if you intend to open it up to like general NSOC, or like if anybody can hold the position, or if it does have to be a council member.
Apologies, Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. Apologies, I guess that was worded wrong. The 5 members will actually be hired members.
Okay.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions? Giving it a couple more seconds. Okay, seeing none, do you have a closing?
I would really love to have a sustainability committee this year. So if you guys could vote this through, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Great. All right, so be it resolved that council approve the first reading of the changes to bylaw 9, standing committees as seen in appendix sustainability. Moved by Julia, let's have less forest fires, Newcomb, seconded by Thomas, the governor. Right. You may all vote now.
Motion passes.
Awesome. Motion passes. So I just accidentally exited out of the agenda because I dropped water on my computer. So let me just open it up again. My apologies, everyone. Great. Moving on to motion 11. Whereas we call the Committee on Inclusivity the Equity Team, and whereas this creates confusion when look for the equity team in policy and bylaw. Be it resolved that council approve the first reading of the changes to bylaw 9, standing committees as seen in appendix We Want Equity. Moved by Julia, sipping equity, Newcomb, seconded by Spencer, sipping inclusivity, Lee. Do we have an opening? I tried my best.
Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. Sorry, I'm speaking so much tonight. This is just a follow-up on the policy changes that were approved earlier by changing the Inclusivity Committee to the Equity Committee. And again, under ABB6, updating the change to the position who sits on the Equity Committee just for continuity's sake.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have any questions? President Hoskin.
I am David Hoskin, Apple Math President. So I was looking under section E in this policy where it talks about open forums. So I was just wondering if you have any ideas currently about like what open forums you want to do this year, if there are any on like specific topics.
Spencer Lee, President, that section E wasn't at all changed and is not really relevant to the policy change or relevant to the motion.
Noted. Awesome. Do we have any more questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the vote. Do we have a closing? Awesome. Okay. Be it resolved that Council approve the first reading of the changes to Bylaw 9, Standing Committees, as seen in Appendix We Want Equity, moved by Julia Sipping Equity Newcomb, seconded by Spencer Sipping Inclusivity Lee. You may all vote now.
Motion passes.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to motion 12. Whereas because of the pandemic, Sci 2 FAR will probably never become a year, and whereas they will therefore not need impervious GPAs, and whereas the pandemic has already taken so much from them, and whereas why don't we take some more, be it resolved that Council approve the introduction of golden fingerless gloves and fun fur masks in place of the traditional GPAs. Moved by Rain, Here Comes Trouble, Teasler, seconded by Alex, Make It Double, Fitzialos. Do we have an opening?
I do. So basically, this motion would normally run back in the spring, where it would be, moved before the frosh get here. But due to unfortunate circumstances, as we all know, COVID, that wasn't able to happen. So I'm bringing it now. And these frosh, man, they're so silly. They just don't know what's going on. They don't really deserve GPAs. So I think that we should pass this. And, maybe we'll give them the chance to appeal this later on. But as of right now, I don't know. They're just too silly.
Awesome. Do we have any questions? Representative Green.
Sci 21 AMS representative Matthew Green. Since the frosh are so silly, I would, I'm speaking third person, not sure how to do that with this. It would be suggested that the gloves should not be fingerless, as the frosh could injure themselves. And it would not be good for COVID spreading.
Point of information. Rain Teasler, director of first year. That is a good point. But what I was kind of envisioning was, those fingerless gloves that have the mittens on the back that you can like pull over the fingers. So, sorry. Sorry, I thought the thing in the chat was for me. Where, that will mitigate all the COVID spread by having mittens. And then also, since their fingers are restricted, they won't have any chance of hurting them. That's what my thought was.
Awesome. Representative Begeja.
Emily Bouget, general member. I was just wondering, can I get in on this order of fun fur masks? And I was wondering, you should maybe do surgical gloves for just COVID. It's just the best way they can wear them grocery shopping. They can just show everyone their pride.
Rain Teasler, director of first year. Yeah, that's honestly on second thought, masks are actually a really good idea. But I think we should let the frosh see what happens. And, if they choose to repeal and decide that they really want GPAs, then, we can come at it again and see if they really are worthy.
Sounds fair.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Also, a future reference for all of council. Also, I'm getting used to this as well. Even though we're on Zoom and this is our typical council meeting, if everyone could please address the speaker, aka myself, that would be lovely. Awesome. So moving on, Director Newcomb, you have a question.
Yes, Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. How do these fun fur masks compare to medical grade N95 masks?
Rain Teasler, director. So no, I'm not social issues. Director of first year. Better, honestly, because you have a lot more, or there is a lot more material there for the virus to get caught on. There's a bunch of fur which can interlock, and thus making a much more protective barrier for the thrush, so that they don't accidentally inhale any of the virus.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to Representative Asija.
Sylvia Asija, proxy for junior senator. So with the masks, I am assuming they will be brown because fun fur, but what is your proposed color scheme for the fingerless gloves?
Green Teaser, director of first year. In the motion, it says that they will be golden. So, yes, they will be golden
Awesome.
finger.
Thank you very much. Representative Bougeya.
Emily Bougeya, general member. I was just wondering if these gloves will be conducive to being dyed with copious amounts of hair dye.
Dyeing their hair with gloves on, then probably. But other than that, I don't see why.
Awesome. I see no more questions. So do we have a closing? No closing? Great. Go for it.
Rain Teasler, director of first year. Yeah, my closing is the thrush are silly thrush.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the council approve the introduction of golden fingerless gloves and fun fur masks in place of the traditional GPAs. Moved by Rain, Here Comes Trouble, Teasler, seconded by Alex, Naked Double Fitzialis. You may all vote now.
Motion passes.
Awesome. So moving on to motion. Sorry, I just lost my computer. Motion 13. Whereas Sci-2-3 has made it through a whole year of council, and whereas they deserve an anniversary gift, and whereas what better gift than a cool new nickname? Be it resolved that council approve that Sci-2-3 be referred to as Sci-2-3 or not 2-3 during all sessions of the Engineering Society Council. Moved by Thomas, nobody likes you when you're 23. Right, seconded by Alex. What's my year again? Coach Fitzialis. Do we have an opening?
Yes, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I guess Mr. Speaker is not familiar with Shakespeare or Blink-182.
No.
Sci-23 needs a nickname. I am open to any amendments to this motion. So if anyone were to bring up an amendment, I might write it down under nickname suggestions and we could all vote on which one's the best.
Especially President, point of order. Do you want us to write down the suggestions or just raise them to you like audibly?
Point of information, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I think it would be easier if we use the speaker's queue as usual. That way we don't like flood the suggestion thing. We've got sort of like a bottleneck.
Awesome. Any amendments? Anything in the speaker's queue? Let's go with Director Wright.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I move that the motion be amended to reflect the nickname Sci. Nobody likes you when you're 23, because upon reflection, I like that better, and I see it as friendly.
Awesome. Do we have a seconder to the amendment? Oh no, we don't need one. Just kidding. You are passing it. Great. Cool. Then that is friendly. Then next is Director Teasler.
Rain Teasler, Director of First Year. Are members of Side 23 allowed to give suggestions as to their own nickname, or is it thrust upon them like fate?
Direct response. Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. I will certainly allow members from Side 23 to propose a nickname. Whether or not I hear them is a different story, and whether or not I remember to put them in the list is also a different story.
Awesome. President Lee.
Spencer Lee, President. Just in case, if people did not know about, like, you know, nicknames, it might be good for someone to do Side 21's nickname, just so people get an idea for what a nickname can be. In its entirety, it should be done.
Zay, do you need the lyrics?
Direct.
I may need the lyrics. Representative Bujea.
So what's stopping us from the whole Blink 182 song being Side 23's nickname? I think that it would be the perfect accompaniment to our Wonderwall.
I would, I would like to say that I would prefer not, but I don't have any say.
Direct response. I'm just gonna do like a miniature filibuster here until I look up the lyrics to the song to make sure it's not like totally long. But I'm just gonna say I hope everyone's day has been going well so far. I hope everyone's been having a good week 3. I hope that everyone is staying safe. I hope that no one's going to like large gatherings. And I hope that this page loads quickly, which it has. It's only like, oh, okay. I'm realizing that the other lyrics are somewhat inappropriate for the council chambers, so I will not propose that. I will not see that as friendly, rather.
Awesome. Do we have any more suggestions? I'm seeing nothing else in the speakers queue. So I will assume that we are going to be sticking with Psy. Nobody likes you when you're 2-3 or 23. It's 23 or 2-3.
Direct response, 23.
Noted. Cool. So with that being said, do we have a closing?
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. It looks like someone prefers the original nickname I had. So I will give pretty much everybody a vote on this. I'm not going to be able to tell which ones are from Side 23, but there's only like 4 of them. So I don't think that, I don't think it's too consequential. So put a character in the nickname suggestion list next to which name you would prefer.
It would seem as though Psy, Nobody Likes You When You're 23 is the winner of that vote. I will take that as your closing, and we can move on. So be it resolved that council approve that Psy 23 be referred to as Psy, Nobody Likes You When You're 23 during all sessions of the Engineering Society Council. Moved by Thomas, Nobody Likes You When You're 23. Right. Seconded by Alex. What's my year again? Kosh Fitzialis. You may all vote now.
Motion passes.
Alrighty, thank you for that. So, go for it.
I'll just advise Mr. Speaker that it is usually said in the cadence, nobody likes you when you're 23.
May I practice for the next council, and for all councils moving on, I will do all of the names appropriately, but give me some practice for a little bit. Great. So thank you for that. So that concludes new business. Moving on to executive reports, starting with the president.
Spencer Lee, president. Hey everyone. The past 2 weeks have kind of been like settling in, getting adjusted to classes online, and also kind of getting like adjusted to balancing workload of NSOC and also school. So yeah, wrapped up like summer stuff. You guys saw the presentation, and there should be also like a strat plan in the council documents if you want to take a look at that. Some of the stuff that I've worked on in the past 2 weeks are like a couple AMS assembly committees. So that's like the LGBTQ plus working group, which basically gets a lot of like the student leaders for faculty societies, and also LGBTQ plus focused clubs and groups. And we talk about kind of what initiatives we can work on together. Yeah, faculty board, the apps for OC are open. So if you know someone that's like interested in that, definitely tell them to take a look at it. For the next 2 weeks, obviously more planning for remote semester. They just announced that the second, so for the winter, it's going to be mostly online. So planning what that means for NSOC, opening up sci-formal convener apps, and yeah, we're also presenting OEC stuff. We talked about that in the presentation today. Oh yeah, and then I think Roche is the director of external relations is attending the CFES president's meeting for me. So yeah, I think that about wraps that up. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Yeah.
Thank you, President Lee. So moving on to VP Operations. Ben?
Ben Zarikmi, Vice President of Operations. So over the last 2 weeks, I'll try to keep this short, but working to get the tea room open. So now that's going to be open on Monday next week. I'll let Andrew talk about that more if he wants to. Setting up CSJ and SWEP audit stuff for Science Quest. So basically trying to get our funding back. Director meetings. Oh wait. Okay, never mind. My screen just went black, so. Okay, so completing the annual operating budget with Salma, working on my strat plan, summer accountability report, and summer actuals, and then just trying to get into a routine. And then over the next 2 weeks, in the next couple days, I'll be completing the budget with Salma, and that should be sent out on Thursday. The reason the budget did not come to this council is because I did not notice in policy that it should be sent out a week before council, unlike all the other appendices that get sent out 2 days before council. So it's pretty much done, just a couple things to edit, but you'll see that soon. And please send feedback to Salma and I over email. It's a lot easier for us to make changes before council than to make amendments live during council on Excel. And other than that, just trying to get started on the audit with Salma and hiring and business manager training. Also, shout out to my directors for the work they did this summer.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to Vice President, Student Affairs.
Hi, everyone. So this past 2 weeks, we did a bunch of things for our conferences and clubs. So we have a bunch of new clubs and conferences that have been ratified recently. We had a little mini council, which was nice. So these include METSOC, NESB, QCLI, QVFT, Queens Recon, and QCTF. So congrats to them, and we're very happy to have them in NSOC. I'm continuing to organize the Gender and Engineering panel with Varnika and Emily and Arham and Julia, and that's been really great. We're doing hiring this weekend. I helped Thomas with some hiring too this past weekend. attended faculty board, ESCO, a lot of stuff with ESCO, a lot of communicating with them, but as I said, we will be presenting tomorrow, which is in my updates for the next 2 weeks, but we'll be doing that. Did some strat plan and the accountability report writing. Club fund discussions have been really great with Brian. Thank you, Zaid, for taking part in that from last year with Allison, our past director of conferences. So we're kind of trying to take that on this year as well, and being able to, properly fund our clubs and provide support in that area. And then other little things like finalizing some things with discipline clubs and year execs, ordering team merch, whoop whoop. And then the next 2 weeks, as I said, ESCO presentation, Bursary chair hiring with Julia, which should be fun. There's some hiring for gender and eng panel and some training that needs to be organized for gender and eng mentors. And then statics with directors, as always, love that. So that's been great. And then finally, discipline club and year exec roundtables for September will be upcoming and hopefully the coming week. So yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So that we're moving on to director reports, starting off with academics.
Hi, Nick Arnott, Director of Academics. Running you through my summer. For EngLinks, we got strat plans and budgets done. They're lovely, they're great. And then they really got to working about getting ready and operational remotely. So they did a bunch of resource development, they got a platform secured, and all of the other sort of behind the scenes things that are necessary for them to be operating. And just they really did hit the ground running. They've already started doing workshops for some of the first year stuff. Icon, sort of a similar vein, we got strat plans and budgets done, and then a whole lot of contingencies and plannings, trying to find ways for the staff and the service to stay engaged with students, even though we are currently waiting to hear back from building managers as to if and when we can get access to the buildings for the service to potentially start up again. The bed fund purchasing wrapped up from last year pretty well. We only have one discipline that hasn't made all of their purchases yet, so that's still a huge W. They also got some nice strat plans and budgets in there and have been doing some good work in terms of promotional content so that everything can get promoted for the upcoming year. In terms of advocacy work, I built a sort of centralized feedback system that's not operational yet. We're still waiting on some things like approvals from the faculty and how we're gonna organize all the fine details and hiring electing the last few of our reps, but it's close. It's almost ready, and that's exciting. Yeah, that's essentially what my summer looks like. Over the next couple weeks, I will be hiring my feedback officer and caucus coordinator. Those positions did get extended, so if you're looking for something to do this year, head on over to Dash, quick little plug. Otherwise, I'll be having statics with my teams, making sure things are still going on track and well, advertising, promoting, and finishing any last kinks in the feedback system that we're implementing this year, finishing any resources that are associated with that, and then EngLinks will continue to be running their workshops that they're doing right now, especially for the Frosh. They got a bunch of stuff coming out right now. So pump that out, promote that, get people heading over to those workshops.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to communications.
Okay. Arham Chowdhury, Director of Communications. So some of the things I've been doing over the past summer, or I did over the past summer, I got my strategic plan and budget done. I worked on a couple of new campaigns for the EngSoc social media with my team. So some examples are, we did this COVID spotlight campaign where, yeah, that. And then there's also an EDI campaign. And the purpose of the EDI campaign is to shine a spotlight on individuals or organizations making positive change towards EDI. And EDI is equity, diversity, inclusion. So we did Engiqueers, QAs, Queens Aces. But if you know a club or individual that you think should be part of this campaign, you should send a message to the EngSoc Instagram or Facebook page. And yeah, also helped out a bit with like when everything was going down with Black Lives Matter. NSOC logo redesign competition that started. Okay, sorry that I'm like the nervous. Okay, but also helped with planning and logistics and graphics for the new gender and engineering panel. Sent out a couple of all enges and also started to help Tea Room with promotional graphics. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, and things I'll be doing over the next 2 weeks. So hiring general members for my team and moderators for gender and eng panel. Designing a resource page on the NSOC website, mostly for first years. Finalizing the NSOC logo competition. And working to redesign the comm team website since it got wiped over the summer. But since the website's not up, if you have any graphics, photos, or video related requests, you can send me an email at com@nsoc.queensu.ca and I'll be happy to help. And that's all.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Moving on to clubs and conferences.
Brian Field, Director of Clubs and Conferences. Hi, everyone. So here's pretty much all the things that I've been doing since I've been hired. Pretty much we got the conferences and the co-chairs running. We had the CNC team transition. And over the summer, I did my strat plan and just kind of general maintenance of different initiatives on the way. We kind of solidified what our move with the club's portfolio will be, and also figuring out how to incorporate the officers in the clubs and conferences department better. And at the end of the summer, we had our I already said that strapline budget. And yeah, we saw an explosion of the amount of initiatives under this portfolio. So we're really excited to fold them in, as Alex said, and see where they can take us and where we can help them take them, where we can, help them grow. And yeah, things that I'll be doing for the next 2 weeks, getting settled back into the school, shape things, and then getting fall hiring underway for all the conferences, roundtables for clubs and conferences, and then a publicity campaign to be seen, and also working on a kind of a playbook for an online conference season that we can push out for the winter.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to design.
Liam Murray, Director of Design. So what I did over the summer was I met a lot with the teams to try and figure out how to standardize team captain hiring because it's been an issue in the past. I was planning for events for the year. It's a little iffy now that the winter just got confirmed to be online, so we'll see how that goes. I had the team send in contingency plans so they have a bit of an idea on how they're going to operate because they're online instead of just having them walk in blinded, not knowing what's going on. And I also helped plan for their promotional videos, which were posted on the NSOC YouTube page last week. For the next 2 weeks, I'm going to start making weekly notes for my transitioning later in the year because updates are kind of an issue. I didn't really know what I was doing when I moved into the position. So I want to make a consistent path for my lower. Re-ratification forms are going to be submitted so that teams can be re-ratified and operate, and then get a bit of feedback on how the promo videos went, and so see if there's any way to improve it moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Moving on to external relations because events no longer exists.
Hey everybody, Shana Gunnavarthan, external relations here. Very first ED report. Things I've been doing the last 2 weeks, organizing and running the Cherry Fox Run to a little success. I think the foundation had a little problem transitioning onto online platforms, which is unfortunate, but what can you do? Putting out outreach team applications, should have them hired by council. That was a lie. I will have them hired this weekend. My managers are set the interview dates now. Putting up November chair applications. Yeah, this one's a little bit iffy just because of lack of student engagement and everything like that, but it might be revamped to look a different way this year. I'm still working on that development. Speaking with ESCO about doing a mascot stealing event with conference delegation, I have no idea what they're doing with this, but I am working on figuring that out. It seems very interesting. And things I'll be doing over the next 2 weeks, assembling and getting to know the new ex-ComCom team, which is 2 hired from this council, obviously, and then I have the first years hired next council, which will be fun. Working with outreach to send out the BLM patches we made. So I believe they're in the ILC right now, and we're just going to set up a date to start mailing those out, which is super exciting. Raise a lot of money. Since the alternative fix and clean events fell through, we're going to be working with the coordinators to focusing on creating a long-term marketing plan, which is what we're in the midst of doing right now, including promotional videos and everything like that. And going to ESCO PM, which is this weekend, and September TC, which is tomorrow. So kind of a busy week for me. And then, then my meme that I found completely by myself with no assistance whatsoever. And it's everything for me.
Awesome, thank you very much. Moving on to finance.
Salma Ibrahim, Director of Finance. Doing over the summer is a lot of group finance training, making sure clubs, conferences, and all affiliated groups, design teams are having a good transition for finance-related things, making sure they're up on the Bank of NSOC and reviewing their budgets. I learned a lot about our SharePoint banking system, and I altered a few of the processes. That was like one of my main focuses for the summer. I met our bookkeeper, Brenda, and I met our finance officers, all great people. Brenda's awesome. Shout out to Brenda. I did a lot of summer month ends with Ben, so we should have that done and updated soon. We started the auditing process with Ben, so we're doing a review engagement, and so that's cool. I also organized a lot of the finance files and all that stuff in the NSOC lounge, and it was hectic, so we worked a lot on making sure that was organized and good for the new year. In the next 2 weeks, I'll be finishing up month ends, just doing day-to-day finance stuff and make sure we're up to date on that. I'm going to try to pick up where the previous VP Ops and DOF left off with the group debt policy. So I'll be working on that as well. And also more finance training, because I have to give finance training to the newly ratified groups. And moving people onto the SharePoint site, and I'll still be reviewing more budgets because I still have to do that. And then also my finance officers still need to get more training, and I want to transition them on the site as well. So that's something I need to do in the next 2 weeks. And my reminder for affiliated groups, if you need access to the Bank of NSOC, you need finance training, so please contact me, finance@nsoc.queensu.ca. I'm trying to plan a huge finance training session for all the new groups and stuff, so please email me as soon as possible so I can make sure you get that. Cool.
Awesome, thank you very much. Moving on to first year.
Rain Teasler, Director of First Year. So I didn't realize we were doing summaries of the summer, but I can give a quick little recap. Basically, all my managers were hired, really great people, could not do what I do without them, love them to bits. And then basically throughout the summer, we were just planning, doing strat planning, budgeting, of course, and just preparing for the wave of frosh that arrived a couple weeks ago. So basically, you know, what I've been doing specifically over the past 2 weeks, answering a lot of questions and concerns, talking with CEO about how jackets are going to work if they do jacket council and when they're right back. Just supporting all my managers best I can, working on balancing school and balancing directorship and all that, getting the FIPCO program up and running. If you know any first years that are interested, send them over to Dash or send them over to Sabrina, my FIPCO manager, or myself. I'm also willing to answer questions. I love Frosh. I've been aiding with the planning and logistics of the speaker series and workshops that are being planned. We have a couple planned. The most recent one, or the one that's coming up most, I guess we'll come back to that. It's in 2 weeks. I've been helping Afra and Kendi Sandy with faculty stuff. Also throughout the summer, I was helping the faculty with strategic planning for how first year is going to run. So that was really cool. Been sending out my emails. The first one was really well received, really funny, lighthearted. I think all the Frosh really liked it. first year exec elections are beginning this or next week, depending on how many people actually nominate themselves. So far, we have a good number, but again, if you know any frosh, please push them in my direction. Yeah, as for school, lots of rocks, just a lot of rocks. As well, my team and I have been promoting services, clubs, and teams with hiring, spreading a lot of the good word. Working on our physics cookie video, which will be released by the time they finish physics. And that's probably about it for the past 2 weeks. Over the next 2 weeks, probably more emails, more promoting, first year exec election and promotion, more faculty stuff. I have a town hall. There's a town hall on October 1st with the dean, and a prospective student podcast that I'm a part of. And I messed up the date. It's actually the 24th, which is Thursday. FIPCO hiring, meeting statics with my team. The EDI speaker series will be up on YouTube, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We're getting that up and running. Shout out to Thomas and Steve for doing a buttload of work on that. Yeah, talking with Frosh. And yeah, same old, same old. And if anyone needs info sent out to any Frosh, I can lend a hand. I have multiple venues. And other than that, hope you're doing well, staying safe. Hakuna Matata Semper Fi, you know?
Thank you very much. So moving on to governance.
Hello, everybody. So I hope I've been doing a good job with iCouncil so far. Here's what I've been up to. So over the summer, I wrote my strategic plan and budget like everybody else. I got very, very familiar with policy and bylaw, so I can help you with any policy and bylaw problems you might have. Hired council team. What's up to Damien, Thomas, and Alir? Thank you for being here. Hired elections team. Most of my summer was actually prepping for what we're doing right now, which included getting a cool attendance system for council automated with Allison, so shout out to her for that. And coordinated some online elections with year execs and discipline clubs. Did not catch any fish, but had a great time doing it. And over the next 2 weeks, mainly we'll be prepping for council next Thursday. The date changed because the AMS decided to change their schedule. Some initial planning for the general election with the elections team that I've just hired. So stay safe. Have a good weekend.
Awesome. Moving on to human resources.
Point of information, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. Do we have Craig?
Would
I can do it. I can do his.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh wait, I need to exit this. Sorry. My view is weird. Zoom tings. Okay, there we go. Okay. So Craig has really been working on a lot of stuff for hiring in the fall. So there's been a lot of like little things behind the scenes. So he's been working with Alex McKinnon, Director of IT, to launch online modules for training. So that's been good. And then giving a lot of hiring training too. Says here, finalizing budget with Selma and general dash upkeep. Oh, I said hiring training. Oh yeah, getting the feedback and recruitment officers started on their initiatives. And then throughout the next 2 weeks, still working on NSTOC Academy, which is that online platform I was talking about. And then same thing I said, preparing for the fall hiring rush. Dash stuff, like cleaning up a bit. There's some applications that are a little bit over the place, so just deleting stuff and putting new things on. And then iterate and run training conference feedback initiative. So he wanted to put through a feedback initiative for training, so to better improve the training process. So that's it for Craig.
Awesome, thank you. Moving on to IT. Is Director McKinnon here, / would Vice President Zarikny like to speak on behalf of him?
Ben Zarikny, Vice President of Operations. Yeah, I can do that. Let's see. I'll try not to go over every point, but basically Alex has made NSOC IT into like basically like a startup company. I'm pretty much like blown away by how like good it's going. There's so many different projects, and it's basically the best possible scenario. Just an example of his projects that he established over the summer. So setting up NSOC Academy, which is our training online. I'm pretty sure the software for that's working now. Just making it look good and getting people on it is all that's left to be done. There's the IT operations security team, summer SDev team. He's rewriting Dash, so hopefully that'll be better by the end of the year. And then multiple other things, and a lot of the sites crashed over the summer, and he spent a lot of time and a lot of hours working on that in August. So hopefully things for him are a little more relaxed now. And then over the next 2 weeks, he's establishing the IT help desk and knowledge base, more SDev hiring, and just continuing his projects.
Awesome, thank you. Moving on, for the first time ever for this position, a report from the Director of Internal Processes.
Okay, so hi, Allison Wong, Director of Internal Processes. So throughout the summer, I was just working on, I guess, building the joint portfolio because it is a new position. This involved like working with Microsoft Flow, creating a SharePoint site, trying to, I guess, create like the code documentation and like tasks for them to complete, as well as working out or just like planning some events that were passed down from the Director of Events. And I also reached out to some of the other ET members about portfolio improvements involving automation. I created the first ever JOIP budget. So over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be collecting services documentation and missing keys that were not, I guess, they're currently missing because of COVID. And I'm planning on working on creating a NSOC lounge request to resume on campus activities forum, and just to finalize any other FIPCO tasks.
Awesome. Moving on to professional development.
Hello, everyone. I'm Varnika Gupta, Director of Professional Development. So over the summer, mostly the past 2 weeks, I've been working on talking with the FIAS corporate relations team to send out the weekly PD Connects. You guys should all be seeing in your emails. Definitely keep up to date with those. A lot of new events happening every week. Because of COVID at the end of last year, we weren't able to hire our industry relations chair and our committee members. So I've been filling that role and conducting the resume review service. I've also been working very closely with our marketing coordinator to up our social media following. We've actually gained, I think, 600 new followers this summer, so she's been doing a great job. And also together we've established PD Focal, which is a new initiative aimed at increasing the representation of QT BIPOC plus engineering students and alumni on our PD social media, which all is through a self-nomination form. So if you or any of your friends are interested, we definitely recommend that you apply for that. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to be working on hiring those empty positions that I mentioned, continuing working on PD Connects and resume reviews. Alex mentioned earlier, we're going to be working on hiring mentors for the gender and engineering panel, and also establishing just general executive meetings with the PD team. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you very much. Moving on to services.
Hey, hello everyone. Andrew Kerman here, Director of Services. I'll try to keep it somewhat brief. So over the summer, a lot of it was just working with each of the services to figure out contingency plans for the fall. The good news is luckily we're opening this Monday, so please, when that happens, like try to advertise as much as possible because we want that to go well. CEO and Golden Words are going to be operational, but only online. And then Clark, not opening for all semester. Probably not going to open for winter, but that is a whole other situation. Apart from that, just a lot of like advisory board stuff, strategic plan, and whatnot. And then over the next few doing Sorry? Okay, Pleasant Citizen, sorry. Hiring process for Science Quest Head Manager. A lot of statics, HR related things, and then I also need to figure out like operation stuff once COVID improves, but I'm not really sure how it's going to look yet. It's kind of up in the air at this moment. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to social issues.
Hi, everyone. Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. So over the summer, I'll try to keep this brief. I wrote my strategic plan. I've been working on creating the panel on gender and engineering. We had several Bursary Committee meetings, and excitingly, we were able to award all the FREC bursaries that applied, so that was super exciting. I've been working on a lot of policy changes. We're working on creating a new resource page for the Engineering Society website that will have a contact me form on it. Working on creating a relationship with the Peer Support Center, working with the faculty on their mental health committee, creating new content for the anti-oppression and anti-racism training, meeting with the president and my team. I hired an environmental equity representative, a diversity representative, accessibility. I forgot to mention mental health, also media and events coordinator, and I did not hire gender and sexuality this year. Looking forward, I am hiring the Bursary Committee Chair and the Environmental Sustainability Committee general members this weekend, and there are an insane amount of applicants for the Environmental Sustainability Committee. There are also some policy changes coming relating to creating an international student representative on council to help diversify the students represented by council, and then creating accountability measures for the Bursary Committee with the ERB. With that will come a rubric that the Bursary Committee will use for its meetings. And then I have more meetings with my reps this week. And I'm sorry, I just had another note I wanted to pull up. And a reminder that September 30th is Orange Shirt Day, which is a day to raise awareness for residential schools and the impact that they had on First Nations peoples in Canada. So if you have an orange shirt, please wear it on September 30th. And that's, I need to leave after the questions period. So if you have any questions for me after that time, please contact me via my email, which is in my report.
Awesome. Thank you very much to all of the ED team. So now we will move on to the question period. And I see a couple of you have already written down your names. So let's move on to questions from you guys. So Representative Asija.
Sylvia Asija, proxy for junior senator. First one is for Spencer, or Spencer Lee, I should say. The LGBTQ plus meetings that you mentioned, are they only open to queer clubs and groups on campus, or are queer individuals also encouraged to participate and voice their opinions on the matter?
Spencer Lee, President. I'm assuming I can like direct response questions. I'm not actually sure at the moment. Right now, it is just people. It is just people that like represent certain clubs and certain groups. But I will definitely ask. Like I will ask the it's run by like the commissioner of like social issues or something from the AMS, or it's run by someone. Like from ACES or from the AMS, so I will ask them. I would assume that like you should be able to sit in on it, but let me just double check and I'll get back to you about that.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Am I allowed to squeeze in a second question?
I will throw you in at the bottom of the queue just because there's two more people in front of you. But yes, you can ask them the question afterwards. Moving on to President Hoskin.
David Hoskin, Apple Math President. I'm concerned that multiple posts in a race by FEAS have called out our orientation week as traumatic and toxic. Orientation week is about welcoming students into a community, yet some have said that they felt excluded and like outsiders from the very first day. So I want to know is, how does NSTOC plan to identify and deal with the systemic issues in our orientation week, including the cases of sexual violence by FREX towards first years?
Point of information, is there anybody that this question is specifically directed to, or is just open to anyone in?
This question is directed towards Spencer because orientation week falls under his portfolio. Although if any other members of the ED team have information, that would be welcome to.
Sure.
All right, Spencer, you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you can start if you want. I can
Point of
throw in
information. Spencer and I actually had a meeting this morning, and we were talking about creating an equity representative on the FC committee, and we've been discussing changing the logistics coordinator position to encompass more equity related issues.
Additionally, I think it's systems and support.
Sorry,
yeah,
thank you, Spencer. Additionally, I would like to have the equity team create a presentation for the FC committee, probably in November, about ways that we think that Frosh Week can be more inclusive. And as a side note, equity team general member elections will be happening next council, so you guys can think about joining.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
I think that pretty much covers that.
Awesome. So moving on to a Representative Bougea.
Emily Bougea, general member. This question is also towards Spencer Lee or anyone else who has any part of orientation week in their portfolio. Seeing at like the whole erase by FIAS thing that David brought up, one of the things that has been brought to attention by a number of people is the fact that people in Frosh Week positions are often quite like they tend to be affluent white people who are enmeshed in drinking culture, and that just tends to be like the people you see on FC as OC. If it's an issue of not enough people applying from other backgrounds, how are you going to market the position of OC and FC and FREC so that a more diverse range of applicants apply? And if it's an issue of hiring, how are you going to make sure that you take equity into account in hiring these positions?
Sorry, Spencer Lee, President. I can answer that. For your question about hiring, I'll start from back. Your question about hiring, we have me and the other executives have talked a bit about including an EDI focused component to hiring, whether that be an EDI focused question and interview or in a written app. And so that would kind of help with the whole EDI side of the hiring at least.
Point of information, that is included in our action plan for our EDI and STOC action plan for this year. We're wanting to put in policy a question that for higher up positions that you have to ask something pertaining to EDI and how they would serve in that position.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. And that's also not just for a week. That's for the entirety of NSHOC. Not just for OC and FC. On the topic of getting, I guess, non-white identifying people involved and interested in the roles, I think starting off with kind of reaching out to the clubs, the groups that kind of are that do kind of help, I guess, advocate or represent these minority groups are good. So I think starting off with NSBE is a good step, but also including that EDI focused position on FC. We really hope that that'll attract a lot of people really focused on EDI. And that's not to say that they won't be white. Obviously, our policy doesn't say anything about there's obviously not allowed to be bias for like race. So, but our hope is that it will attract like quite a diverse group of people, and it won't just attract, as what you said, a primarily white applicant pool, if that makes sense.
Can I add something too?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Alex Cotriziello, Vice President of Student Affairs. It is a really good point though, because we should put more thought probably into exactly like how we want to market it. Because right now we have like graphics, like the kind of the normal marketing materials out, but it might be a good idea to actually market the FC position and just explain like what we're looking for this year specifically. So that's actually a really good point. I just wanted to add that though.
Awesome. Thank you for those responses. Before I get into the next questions, just a quick reminder to everyone in council that this specific question period is directly supposed to be questions about the reports. If there are any questions that don't pertain to the reports, that's okay. Make sure you're asking at the very end of council when we reach statements by questions by members, just as a general reminder to everyone. So moving on, we have Representative Asija.
Information. Can I just ask, do questions about reports, does that count the strategic plans?
Yes. Yes.
Sure.
Okay, point of information again, just because in the present strategic plan, there are key points about elimination of systemic barriers, and there was mention about the importance of orientation week to the community. So I just feel like these questions about orientation week and how we can make them more accessible are directly related to the strategic plans.
Okay, that's fine. You can still ask those questions at the very end. Thank you.
Point of order. Just seeing as I believe council started at 6:30 and 9:30 is coming up.
Yes.
I do motion to extend council.
Yes, thank you for that, Spencer. Do we have anybody who wishes to motion to extend council? Okay.
I'll go for it.
Motion to extend council. If you guys could please vote now. That'd be lovely.
Point of information, just type a Y in the chat for yes and an N for no.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So you cannot abstain, or one cannot abstain.
Awesome. Motion passes. Council will now go until 10. Thank you. Again, Representative Asija, you had a question.
Sylvia Asija, proxy for junior senator. This was just a really quick question for Roshana. You talked about the BLM patches, and I was just wondering if they will only be distributed or if they're going to be sold again now.
So I believe that, oh, sorry, some things are falling down. So I believe Alex set up a ordering form and, oh, sorry. My name is Rosh Kinvardhana, Director of External Relations. I believe that Alex set up an ordering form, and what we have currently is the batch that was ordered, but at the same time, we acquired the design that the other VP externals worked on, like myself and the other schools, and we are able to like recreate it. So if there's other demand, we can definitely move forward with that form, I believe, and keep ordering them. And if that, in fact, I think that would be a great thing moving forward to keep donating to these causes that we've raised for so far, especially considering it's been a lot of money. But if I got any of that information incorrect, Alex, you can step in and correct anything.
Alex Cotriziello, Vice President of Student Affairs. That's all correct. So we have all the patches in the office right now. We ordered them again, which is really, really exciting. And for the form, it's semi set up. So Roche's team and I can work towards actually putting it out there. But because of other things going on, we hadn't prioritized that as like the top thing we've been working on. But that is something that we're going to be working on very soon. So it's exciting.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to President Hoskin.
David Hoskin, Apple Math president. So I do really like the idea of an EDI FC member. I think that is a good step, but I don't believe that that is enough for this year, simply because like this year we had an online orientation week. Next year we're hopefully going to have an in-person one again. This is a unique opportunity to really decide what part of our orientation week really matters. So we can keep the traditions that bring people together, that everyone can feel included for. And we can perhaps tweak the things that make people feel excluded. But I think part of that process needs to have some external eyes. And what I mean by that is if you look at some of the posts by Erase by FEAS, there were multiple that noted eng cuts as an area where people felt excluded because of the color of their skin. Personally, eng cuts is never an event I would have thought would have been excluded, like would have made people feel excluded, but it does. So that's where I think we need someone with a different perspective. We need someone who maybe isn't like still like the eng undergrad. We need to have someone else who can look at our events from an outside perspective and say, hey, maybe that's not okay. Because orientation week is amazing, but it's meant to bring people together. It's meant to welcome everyone. And I'm concerned that we're not doing that currently. And I think we can.
Point of information.
Sorry,
Is this
just had to,
Sorry?
Sorry, so I was just gonna have the question there is like, is there any consideration then to how to gain an external viewpoint this year to ensure we identify these issues?
Spencer Lee, President, I'm gonna assume that was directed to me. Yeah, I believe, so what you described someone outside of the undergraduate kind of viewpoint to take a look at O Week. I'm not sure if everyone in council knows, but O Week does actually undergo like a SORB, which is like a panel that does have undergraduate students, but also has obviously non-undergraduate students. We, like Julia said it, we will have an idea to like use the equity team to give suggestions to FC. But actually something that was just brought up in like the recent agenda for AMS Assembly that's happening this Thursday is that the SORB kind of board panel is starting an EDI focused like subcommittee / working group. So that panel will be made up of like SORB members, which are not only undergraduate members, and they will be looking at all of the orientation weeks, not just engineering, but like they'll take a look at like faculty society ones, as well as like your general residence orientation. So they'll be kind of doing exactly what you said, if that makes sense.
Point of information, just want to ask, like, is SORB directly involved in the planning of the orientation week, or do they review like after?
They're like iterative in the process, if that makes sense. Like it's not just like send it and then submit or like, or deny. It's kind of like we have constant meetings with them to talk about what events are being planned. So it is, they are definitely a part of the process.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to be cutting the queue just because we still have a couple things to get through. So if there are any additional questions, you can please reach out to the ED team. I'll just entertain the last question that was in there. So Representative Bougea.
Wait, can I go, or did you?
Yeah, you can go. Your last question.
So this is, again, directed towards Spencer, based on his previous response about including an EDI position into the FC. In terms of that, how are you going to make sure that that's not just like a tokenizing position that is like, hey, look, we have this one person in this one position, we're doing enough? How are you going to make sure that that's not just there so that you can fulfill your diversity requirement in terms of committee makeup?
Sorry.
Point of information, this is a new position that we have just begun discussing, so we don't have any specifics on what this position is going to look like yet, but we will look forward to entertaining more ideas about this as we look at it more.
Yeah. Spencer Lee, President. Also, another thing is that I might have misspoke when I said this. I didn't mean it to be like a position on FC specifically for like BIPOC individuals. If that's what came across, I apologize. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant a individual focused on the EDI within O Week and an individual that will kind of go through O Week planning with kind of like a fine tooth to evaluate all of our processes and our events with respect to EDI and seeing what barriers are there. I didn't mean that like we're going to hire a person just because they were a BIPOC person. That's not what I meant.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That'll be the end of the question period for the ED team. So moving on to the faculty board report. I'm pretty sure you guys had a faculty board meeting?
Yes, we had one last Wednesday. So I have an update for you guys. So we kind of started off with all the dean's reports. So they did a general overview about how they felt about how the online learning was going. They were very happy it hadn't completely exploded in the first week. He talked about, for the winter term, their plans. They made it very clear that for the in-person stuff, if any of it was happening, it would only be for core lab components that were degree requirements, so like elective lab courses, probably not running in person, was the way they phrased that. They're firming that up through the semester, that courses are currently applying to be in person. I think that deadline's next week. He commented on Frosh Week. He thought it went as well as possible for an online Frosh Week, and that you guys all did a really awesome job. So I guess congrats there. He then commented on the numbers. So there are a lot more first years this year. It's up to, I think he said almost 1,000, up from like the 800-ish last year. And he said that was pretty common across most of the schools in Ontario with their incoming numbers. They did weird stuff this year with COVID and it got kind of messed up. In opposition, the grad numbers went down, which was also consistent. And so they're looking at promoting grad studies to domestic students and how they can do that. Sorry, I go too fast sometimes. A really interesting thing that one of the deans was talking about was a study they're doing about like family income of students that apply to Queen's are offered admission and accept it. So they're doing it based on postal codes of where the applicant was from, so not super precise, but they're still working on it. And it was actually found that for most faculties, 30 to 40% of the students who accept their offers are in the top income bracket, and for commerce and engineering, it's above 50%. So just kind of looking at that and what that means for the school in general. They also went over the curriculum changes due to COVID that were in past. I mean, it depended. They were varied. Like the first years are doing the weird thing with the courses split, and the courses that were taken out for different disciplines and stuff. And I guess the last part is there are 5 new professorships with the Ingenuity Labs Research Institute in Mitchell Hall, and they're like 5-year terms for new junior faculty members that were approved. So yeah, that's kind of the gist.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to the Alma Mater Society report. Have you guys had a meeting?
I guess I can speak to this.
Well, okay, sure.
Yeah. AMS assembly is this Thursday. We haven't had it. The last thing was a beginning of August. So.
Okay, that sounds good. Moving on to the Senate report.
Point of order.
Go for it.
Remember everyone to state name and position before you speak.
Sorry.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance.
Thank you,
Peter
Thomas.
Matthews, Senior Senator. There has not yet been a Senate meeting, so nothing to report.
Thank you very much. Do we have a report from the Engineering Review Board? I will take that as a no. Do we have a report from the Engineering Society Advisory Board?
Yep, Andrew Vassila, Chairman of the Advisory Board. Hey everybody, get ready for my 30-minute monologue. So at this point, the board met a couple of times over the summer and reviewed the strategic plans and budgets, as well as considering additional contingency plans for several of the services hoping to operate in a limited or full capacity for the coming year. We're going to have our next meeting next week, just waiting to schedule that in. All the services did a really great job at presenting their plans. We're excited to work with them in the capacity that we have, and huge props to the executive, Ben in particular, for getting a lot of stuff done and keeping the society running to the capacity which it has.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Andrew. Moving on to the Discipline Club reports. So now it's time for the report from Geo, after which we will say dirt.
Point of information.
Geo.
There you go.
Hello, everyone.
Dirt.
I'm Glenn Abernathy. I'm proxy for Sarah Burns, Vice President of VP Eng for Miller Club. So to date, we've had 2 Miller Club meetings. We are currently trying to set up a online trivia night as well as a scavenger hunt, which can be completed within people's own social bubbles. And that's about it.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the report from Chem Eng Chem, after which we will say fumes.
Hi, Serena Lagisma, Chem Eng Chem President. What we've been doing is we had the second year orientation last Wednesday, and the second year reps are being voted on now and will be selected by Friday. We've been distributing last year's merch that was purchased, and we have set up 1 academic survey so far, and we plan on having them in week 3, week 6, and week 9. And we're working on coming up with online socials for each year.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Now we will move on to the report from Apple, after which we will say nerds.
Apple Math.
Nerds.
David Hoskin, Apple Math President. So currently we're holding elections. Ballots are open for another 2.5 hours. Unfortunately, we've had some issues this year, like getting enough people to run for our positions. So we're gonna have to look at shuffling some roles around, or perhaps holding another election later. But working on that. Over the summer, we got our website up thanks to Director of IT Alex. So check out applemath.ca. It's still a work in progress though, but we will have a webmaster who's gonna really work on that this year. One of the things we did over the summer is we held a survey for the math department, specifically about winter term courses, because there wasn't really feedback done there. One of the things that's new is the Department of Mathematics and Statistics as undergraduate representatives at their department meetings. So mathematics and statistics get a rep, graduates get a rep, and Apple Math gets a rep. So I now go to the monthly department meetings, which is quite interesting so far, and I represent students there. And in the next few days, we're going to be running a large survey for the department on all math engineering courses, and this is going to be used to essentially like change course if need be on how courses are being run, but it's just to kind of collect feedback.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Moving on to the report from Civil, after which we will say beams. Civil.
Hey, can you hear me?
Beams.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Jared Mason, Civil Society President. We started off the year doing some hiring for a few positions we didn't fill at the end of year last year, and that all went pretty well except for second year positions. We still need second year reps and to get some second year civil involved, so we are pushing more for some of that hiring, and we're trying to advertise more with that. Other than that, we hosted one event so far, which was a Zoom Kahoot kind of game show, and that was a moderate success, and that's about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. Cool. Moving on to the year reports. So first up, we have Psy to Wonderwall. I will not sing the full thing, but maybe one day.
Psy to one.
Hi, everyone. Kate Lappin, President of Psy 21. So over the summer, Alex and Thomas were really great about helping me transition into everything. Obviously, it was a bit of a shuffle with COVID because no one was really hired or applied before summer, so that was interesting, but yeah, they were super great, and everything's built now, which is awesome. We're having our first meeting next Monday with the team, so we'll be able to brainstorm ideas and figure out what we want to do for the year. And then I had my finance training this week, which was super helpful. And after our meeting next Monday, we'll be looking at our budget and hopefully submitting that really soon. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kate. Now moving on to the report from Sai to chugga 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 toot to
Sai to
Frosh.
Hey everyone, Julia Takamoto, Sai22 Prez. We had our first meeting earlier today, which is awesome, and we've filled out all of our council, all of our positions, including the council ones. We did a bit of goal setting for the year, so everyone, like in each position, has set a personal goal for something we can do this year. We are beginning to plan some socially distanced / virtual events for the year, hopefully just trying to keep the year connected. And a quick shout out to Morgan, our VP. It's her first council today. That's it.
Yay. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Sai, nobody likes you when you're 23. 2-3. Do you guys have a report?
Gosh.
Alex Kosh-Patialis, Vice President of Student Affairs. I'll give David's wait, what? Oh, okay, good. Thank God. Okay, so I'm giving David's report today, but basically he had some technical difficulties, so I'll just go over a little bit about what he's been doing. He said he's working on getting backed orders from last year's merch sales sorted, and right now he has some roles that he needs to get elected still, so that includes AMS rep. He has some names, but he needs to solidify those, but that's kind of what he's working on, and that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alex. That is all we have for the reports. So we'll now move on to statements and questions by members. And I do see some. So Representative Bougea, you have a question.
Emily Bougea, General Member. This is kind of a statement and a question in one. This has nothing to do with O Week. Sorry if I spoke a lot about that earlier. So on the Queen's subreddit, so I heard something from multiple people that there is all of this, like something that like a bunch of Frex had a tea party for their frosh in person. I traced this back to the Queen's University Reddit, and they actually do call out NSOC saying, an Eng Frosh group even held a party a few weeks ago, which I hear is completely against the Engineering Society's current COVID regulations. All I'm saying is that maybe we should be putting out a statement to the Frex, or just in general making some sort of ad campaign for not partying, because Eng does have a reputation as being one of the harder partying disciplines, and that going forwards, this may actually determine the amount of leeway we get in reinstating certain orientation week events that we were not able to run because of COVID, just in terms of it's all an image thing. We're already known for having all of these parties. We're already known for a lot of stuff. And even if it's not the people in council that are doing this, it is members of the Engineering Society by virtue of being enrolled in Queen's Engineering. So just, I've heard it from many people. All it's been traced back to is a Reddit post, but the rumors are spreading, and we should probably be calling out our peers, calling out anybody who is being a poor representative of engineering, and also call into doing healthier things. Just because in terms of like the privileges we have as a society within the university, and the privileges we have as students within the community, we should really be respecting that and trying not to ruffle any feathers.
Point of information, Ali, last year's OC, is doing everything she can in terms of messaging to the Frex to not be, partying or having socials of any kind.
Yeah.
Having any in-person socials of any kind, sorry.
Point of information, I'm actually included in on the tech group chat just because it's easier to talk with techs and then thereby Frex. Oh, sorry, Rain Teasler, Director of First Year. I'm in, as I said, a group with all the techs, and the Action Tech Plant Manager, Thomas Mulvihill, who was here, but I'm not sure. He's basically, he's put a whole statement into the group chat stating that, you know, the principal has issued a statement of that saying like expulsion is a possibility, and that defracking people is also not impossible. And then he mentions the what you said earlier, that Frosh Group, whatever, was throwing a huge party. And basically he just reminded all of us that it is our job as Frex to be good role models, and that, you know, the techs especially are all smart people, and that you shouldn't be caught doing this, or you shouldn't be doing it at all. Let me reword that. It shouldn't be happening at all. And that the consequences will be dire if it does happen.
Alex Kosh, can I say, do I say direct response or no? Or do I just go?
Direct response, yeah, just name a position.
Okay, Alex Koshvitz-Yalis, Vice President, Student Affairs. So aside from FREC-oriented stuff in terms of just parties in general with our membership, I do think that like having a marketing campaign or something like that would be a good idea, just because there have been issues recently. So I do think that's a good point that you brought up, specific to our membership. So posting something on our Instagram, for example, something like that might be a really good play for us.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to a question from President Hoskin.
Hi, David Hoskin, Apple Math President. So kind of just want to say is like I want to acknowledge all the posts on Erased by FEAS. There's 40 posts there. I really recommend that everyone take the time and like try and read those. A lot of them are very upsetting about some of the things that have happened to engineering students. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there for us as a council to make positive change. I'm a little disheartened that we didn't spend as much time on those things like with this first council, but I would like to see just moving forward in the year, dealing with these issues brought up being one of our main priorities as council.
Awesome, thank you very much. Is there any more questions? Cool, we have one last question from Director Wright.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. First of all, I'd like to thank President Hoskin for bringing up that point. I think a discussion period based on the posts in Erased by FEAS would be very productive, and I will look into establishing that in a future council. Also, I would just like to thank all the members of council who showed up today. Of course, we have a lot of improvement to do throughout the year, but I think this went great personally, especially for the first time doing this. Honestly, I was scared going in, and everyone here has made my job a lot easier so far. So I am looking forward to the year.
Awesome, thank you, Thomas. So seeing no more questions, everyone, we'll go Alex Koshvitz-Yalis, and we'll go Brian Sia. Will be motion to end council. Cool. So yeah, that's is everyone able to vote on that, please?
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Council is adjourned. Thank you all for coming, and I will see you all next time. Thank you.